call me tonight. I spent the last week running from the heat, but the beat's coming alive. Let's get lost tonight. Lord, who's on my right?
I was going to say, well, hello. We're doing double intro today. Welcome to Without a Country. Turn my volume down a little bit. I am Corinne Fisher. I am your host for the evening. I'm a stand-up comedian, former mayoral candidate in New York City 2025. And, podcaster extraordinaire. Here I am. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. We have Sir Alfred Hitchcock, my baby boy from Pup Stars Rescue, representing adoptions in New York City. I mean, he's my dog, but I like to make him a representative as well. We're all doing our fair share in this household. Welcome to the show. If you're just joining us, we look at the biggest, most interesting or hidden, flying under the radar news stories of the week. And we look at them from the perspective of the right and the left, and we try to find some sense in the middle. I am certainly left leaning, but everyone is welcome at the table here on Without a Country. I'm happy to hear opinions from all, unless you're just here to troll or say things like you have TDS. I'm not here for that, because that is not a productive conversation. All right. We have a lot to go over today as usual, but we are streaming live earlier than usual because it is Knicks Spurs game 4 here in New York City at MSG, and I'm a big Knicks fan, and I got to go watch that. And Mike is a big Knicks fan as well, and he has to watch that. And we gotta at least cover up the part where Alfred licks his crotch during the during the intro. A couple things to go over at the top. We have GASH Los Angeles. I give you a heads up of this before, and link's not live yet, but I'm just like doing a hold the date the way you would for a wedding. So GASH Los Angeles, the show comes to the Comedy Store on Sunday, October 25th. And again, I know it's like really far in advance to be promoting a Halloween show, but is it? It's almost Summerween, which means it's almost Halloween. And so October 25th, Sunday, 7 p.m., let's all get together for my original show, GASH, where we have a showcase of amazing comedians who do their regular set, their regular act. And then afterwards, I present them with a horror movie scenario. And they explain how they would get out of it using one of the weapons that they will be on the table day of. It's always different weapons for every show, household items, and whoever you think would be the best final girl or final guy wins the show that night. And what do they win? Just the satisfaction of winning. We don't need prizes. It's prize enough to be able to do comedy in America, is it not? All right. Moving past self-serving things, the Creep Act passed in New York. That's really, really good news. Unfortunately, the bill that I've been working a lot more on than the Creep Act. The Creep Act, I just lended some platforms to the Creep Act, which was the bill about stalking. But the Bill A-101, the voluntary intoxication exclusion, which is the one that I had been working on for over a year at this point, doing a ton of work on that. That did not go through again. And I got a DM. So this is kind of like off the record, but it's on the record because I'm telling you, but I can't tell you my source, but I have from a very trusted source, for multiple reasons. This person is an extremely trusted source that that the voluntary intoxication exclusion, which, as a reminder, it's a New York State piece of legislation that says if you voluntarily consume alcohol or do drugs, smoke a joint, whatever, the night of your rape, your rapist cannot be prosecuted as a rapist. This is legislation that exists in many states, but many states have closed this loophole. Texas being one of the last states to do it. And it's, bad news, as we've talked about on this show before, if Texas has more progressive sexual assault legislation than New York State. But someone very trusted told me that an elected official said to him that this isn't going to pass because it takes the fun out of drunk sex. That is like something an elected official in New York said. I don't know who the elected official was because the person who told me this information didn't let me know. I'm sure I could get it out of him if I needed to. It's crazy that he said that to my source. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys because unfortunately, sometimes you need a little anger to light a fire under people. But as suspected, I don't know why this isn't passing or Carl Hasty isn't bringing this to the floor, but I had suspicions that it was, protecting friends kind of a thing. And again, this is all alleged, like why it's not passing, but my source did literally say that. And he didn't technically tell me not to tell anyone. I mean, maybe he might have said between you and me, but I was like, if he thought there was a chance in hell that he was going to tell me and I wasn't going to tell everyone I ever meet for the rest of my life that an elected official, a sitting elected official in New York City said that, and that it is some running joke amongst their friends. This guy doesn't know me well enough. And he knows me. He knows me well. He knows me well enough to know that I was going to say something. But I'm not revealing him because I want to protect him because he's doing really great work. It's a man now, but of course a man would tell another man that. All right. So, but the good news is the Creep Act did pass. If you guys saw the recent episode of GWF with Norma Buster and Carrie Goldberg, that was the legislation that we were talking about on that episode. It's in regards to stalking. Again, this is New York specific, but I think it's important to share this type of legislation and these victories or these kind of walls that we're running up against, because more than likely you in your state have similar legislation that has either passed or needs to go through. And regardless, you should be aware of what the sexual assault legislation is in your state. Certainly a lot of people don't find out what the laws in their state are until something bad happens to them. But it's always good to know it prior to something bad happening to you. And honestly, hopefully something bad never happens to you in that regard. And then the Creep Act has to do with protection for victims or survivors of stalking. And safehorizon.org did a really nice, concise write-up of it. So just to refresh your memory, this is what the Creep Act is. It says stalking is a form of violence when someone engages in repeated and unwanted behaviors to exert power and control over another. They can create fear in a person and destabilize their sense of safety. New York State's anti-stalking laws remain far weaker than the more expansive protections that already exist in 43 states across the country. Currently, victims of stalking in New York can only seek orders of protection against family members and intimate partners. That is not true anymore as of this passing, but this is what the Creep Act was written to undo. If they are being harassed by anyone else, neighbors, coworkers, acquaintances, strangers, they are not eligible for assistance from the courts unless that person is arrested and prosecuted. About the Creep Act, the Ceasing Repeated and Extremely Egregious Predatory Behavior Creep Act protects stalking victims in New York State regardless of how, why, and by whom they are being stalked. New Yorkers have the right to seek protection in order to feel safe. And, there's all the information about how to make it pass, but we don't need to do that because it passed, baby. So that's really good news, but very unfortunate about Bill A-101. And, the commentary about it making drunk sex less fun for your male elected officials really shines a light on why certain legislation doesn't pass. Because, we certainly do have criminals who are representing us. But we have a criminal in the White House. Yeah, I didn't need to state this, but sometimes just to reiterate, sometimes the legislation that is created to protect the people is not passing because it would incriminate the people who are representing us and the people who are in charge of, introducing or voting to pass such legislation. A real fucking shame. Okay. Mike, we're doing comedy comments now.
That's a nice shirt.
This is a $790 shirt. It's from Rent the Runway. I did not pay it, but I love people who have absolutely no concept of fashion who are trolls. This is probably one of the most expensive shirts I've ever worn. And someone's like, "Are you wearing a newspaper as a shirt?" Men are so dumb. Okay.
The other two I put up were decent. Little Blue Gecko said,
I didn't see it.
That's wild. Just at the concept. And then Love is a Battlefield pointed out, talk about a tortured acronym.
Correct. And then just in personal political news, well, I've been doing a lot of work with Disrupt this week, because Knicks watch party tickets in Bryant Park don't come for free. I worked so hard to get into that party, and I had a sing for my supper, as it is said. Like I couldn't get through the regular website. It just was not working. I tried for an hour and then I had to start recording GWF on Monday, but I finally got a ticket I was a +1 to the head of Disrupt, and I had to stay a lot later than the watch party and help him make a ton of political content with the Knicks fans of New York, but well worth it. It was so lovely. It was like such a sense of community. I know there was a lot of bad press about New Yorkers' behavior inside Bryant Park, which was the ticketed event. It was free, but you still had to get a ticket because they capped it at 5,000. Inside Bryant Park, it was so lovely. I had a couple concerns. One of my concerns and it was like an outdoor party. For those of you not familiar with New York City, like Bryant Park is a park on West 42nd Street, but it's a little bit eastward of Times Square. And they had a big screen, and we all just watched it like sitting on blankets in the park together. And one of my concerns, of course, was that it would get super rowdy. And I can't tell you how not rowdy it was. It was so calm. Everyone was like a legit fan, because it was really hard to get the ticket because you had to really be like on your phone to get the ticket. And we just, we just enjoyed it together. No alcohol was allowed in. People were definitely smoking a ton of weed because that's easy to sneak in. But it was just a really, really fun time. And I was there with a couple people from a New York government helping them make content. We were mostly making like content about why no one's been prosecuted in America for the Epstein files yet. And it was really fun to be with all the Knicks fans together. But we did, like, every time there was a commercial break, we heard kind of this noise from the outskirts of the park, and we're like, what is going on? So we would like go and peek, and what the people on the outskirts of Bryant Park that's where the wild stuff was happening. And police did have to come in riot gear and clear out the section, because we were inside Bryant Park and we're kind of like, we might have to sleep here because it's like unsafe to leave. But then as soon as I exited, there was still like a lot of chaos on the streets. And because I had to make this content with Disrupt, I had to like throw my body right into it with all these kind of streamers and everything. And it was fine. And I was like one of the very few women who were out there, especially as far as like the content was concerned. And it was like chaotic, and we were like all jumping together, but it didn't feel like unsafe at any point. And anytime someone like elbowed me or bumped into me too hard, as soon as they realized like that I was a woman, they were like, oh, sorry. And like they moved away. Like it was actually super fine. So, as usual, the news about New York that other people are ingesting is always a lot more dramatic than what's actually happening in New York. And then my second concern about the Bryant Park watch party was that it was going to be similar to what's happening in MSG, that people were just going to like use inside information, like inside, ways. And that's why I'm being transparent with you. I had to use an insider way, but it wasn't a financial insider way. It was, I feel like it was what I got in return for a lot of free political work that I've done. Of course, the satisfaction of doing the work, but it was a nice perk to go in there. And it was really diverse. Like it really, like the people in Bryant Park truly represented the people of New York. And it seemed like it was really fans who were there, not people who just wanted to be there because it was sceney. Like it's not sceney to sit in a park anyway. So yeah, it was super, super fun. And we met a lot of great New Yorkers and had a lot of good conversations about Donald Trump and the Epstein files and all that stuff. Unfortunately, I almost missed the gate closing though. I think because the motorcade was passing 34th Street at the same time that I had to get up to Bryant Park, which of course is above 34th Street. And I was blockaded. Like when I tell you no way to get around, not by plane, train, or automobile could I get around, or foot, could I get around 34th Street. So I had to stand for 30 minutes while this jackass's motorcade passed by. And as you guys know, when the president comes to your town, there are a bunch of streets blocked off so that it's not clear which path he's actually driving down. They have like one real path that he's driving down, but then they also blockade a couple like fake paths, to throw any assassins off. And yeah, I was stewing because I was like, it was so hard for me to get into Bryant Park to begin with. And I was like, if I finally got a ticket, if I got into Bryant Park and then the president fucks me over yet again, because I was originally going to go to the MSG watch party that was canceled because Trump was coming to fall asleep at MSG. So that was my Knicks adventures for the week. And then, as you know, a couple months ago, I applied to be on the community board in my district here, or in Manhattan, in Manhattan, and and I submitted an application, and I think I did a really good job on the application. And when I was looking at my resume, I was like, I am very qualified to be on the community board. I mean, besides, running for mayor, which I did include. And in retrospect, I feel like I shouldn't have. As I was writing down that I was a mayoral candidate, I was like, I bet they're not going to like that. I bet they're going to see that and be like, we don't need this headache. And I was right, because right before I signed onto this live stream today, and again, they took months to review, but I got a letter from the Manhattan Borough president, rejected by New York City yet again, baby. It says, "Dear Corinne Fisher, thank you for your interest in a position on your community board. Our office received over 800 applications for 300 vacancies," which, like, percentage-wise, like, that's you have pretty good odds of being called, at least for an interview. And I have somewhat of like a tab on what is going on, because my friend, although he's in another borough that I think is most likely getting less applications, he definitely, another district that is getting less applications, I should say, and another borough though, he at least got called into an interview. I have a text out to him. I don't know if he got chosen or not, but I'll soon find out. And it said, "Our office received over 800 applications for 300 vacancies. Unfortunately, we are unable to offer you a position at this time. We encourage you to sign up the Manhattan." So there's a typo in it. I guess they mean sign up on the Manhattan Borough President's or for the Manhattan Borough President's office newsletter, and consider joining our volunteer corps to be alerted to opportunities like community cleanups, meal distributions, and other initiatives. Obviously, when I volunteer, I have specific organizations that I volunteer for, but it says, "Thank you for your interest in serving our Manhattan neighborhoods." Signed, the Honorable Brad Holyman Siegel, the office of the Manhattan Borough President. But that just made me laugh so hard, because I was like, I fully ran a legitimate mayoral campaign, and they're like, we don't want this person. And again, I'm sure there's a lot of amazing, interesting people in my neighborhood. Many people who I'm sure have kind of, been serving for much longer. But I got to be honest, I doubt there's a lot of people my age, and you want to be hitting every age bracket. Community boards notoriously skew super old. And so I just really wonder how many Gen Z and millennials are represented on the community board. But, I'll show up at the meeting with the new people and cause a little stir, see what's up. I'd love to know why they didn't even call me in for an interview. That's so crazy. But just an update, because it's like, I keep trying to help and they keep saying, you know what, we are so good. We'd actually rather have all of these people who continue to not change anything in your district. That's what we prefer to do. All right. Yes.
I just wanted to take a second because I've heard the term borough president a number of times. What in the world does the borough president do? And what I mean,
they reject applications for people who are dying, spending thousands of their own dollars to say, please, I have such a good vision, and you guys continue to shoot yourself in the fucking foot. Let's Google, what does the borough president do? It's kind of like Jamani Williams. You're like, there are some roles that I'm like, I don't exactly know, like, what public advocate does. I had a conversation with Anthony Weiner where he was like, yeah, public advocate isn't like it's a made up job to give someone else a job. He's like, the public advocate doesn't do anything. Which is actually really funny because that is like Jamani Williams. There's like in politics, there's a joke that he doesn't wake up until noon. And I was like, oh, maybe public advocate would be a perfect job for me then. They kind of were jokingly calling him the night mayor. Like they were like, if he wins a mayoral race, he'll be the night mayor. Let's see. So they're saying, it says this is from City and State New York, a borough president serves as the primary advocate for their specific borough. I mean, nothing like using the words to define what you're asking it to define. They manage municipal funding, appoint members to local community boards, recommend land use changes, and appoint representation to citywide boards like the City Planning Commission. So, I mean, one of their primary jobs is kind of putting together community boards, I would say, based on this. Because like anytime it says recommend, that means they're saying something that's most likely falling upon deaf ears, like recommend land use changes. A lot of times, like the mayor can completely veto a land use change. But, they can hear from, the mayor can hear them out. And then things like City Planning Commission. It's not like a huge job. But it's more like a stepping stone for higher roles in government, I would say. What does the borough president get paid? I would love to know that.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a lot of money. Guess how much a borough president, which is, as we just saw, barely a job, gets paid?
I'm gonna say $80,000 a year.
No, like way more.
What? Like, I thought this would be an avocation. All right, so the president makes what, $250 a year?
Yeah, apparently. Obviously, they're going to get a lot more things from like book deals and stuff. But yes, like on the books.
They're going to make a lot more from, president has an annual base salary of $400K now. And it's way more from insider trading.
Yeah, 250. Isn't that what the mayor gets paid? I believe. I think the New York City mayor gets paid $250,000.
When I was a kid growing up, that's how much the president made.
No, I remember that too.
Mayor's salary, NYC. Let's look that up. $258,750.
Yeah, because I was like, I was pretty aware of about $250,000.
Right.
I had to make sure I wasn't going to lose my home, to be honest. Okay.
Love is a Battlefield said $120K as a guest for Manhattan Borough more. There's no way the borough president makes more than the mayor.
Not more than the mayor, but you didn't hit the mayor's thing yet.
$200K?
Yeah, about $208,000.
You're making $50,000 less than the mayor to be president of one borough. The mayor's in charge of all 5. He should be getting 5 times as much.
I know that's okay. So that's what NYC.gov is saying. That being said, though, American Legal Publishing Code Library is telling me one's 179,200. Still a huge amount of money. And yes, when you're comparing the workload for the mayor to but it's also like, I don't care. I would be the mayor for free as long as I could like pay my mortgage. Like that's the only thing I cared about was like obviously like being able to pay my mortgage, but I would be the mayor for free. Cause it's like, I want to be the mayor.
For 200,000. Why not? Go be a borough president. I don't stick it to him. They would be like, hey, you didn't want me for your community board. All right, now I'm picking the community board. And guess what? They're all trans. Deal with it. God. You should have taken one millennial when you had a chance.
But I where I live, they would love that.
Yeah, but I mean, the point I'm making is it's going to be all young people.
Yeah. No, I could just kick all the old people out. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't do that, but yeah. You know, so yeah, on here, this one looks a little bit more because they have all the roles stacked. But yeah, like the controller is only making a touch less than the mayor. I would argue in the controller has the toughest job and gets the least press. Because even city council members, like when they pass legislation, they get a bit of press. It's a bit of more of one of the more, roles that you get interviews, you get news coverage. The controller, unless you're like fighting with Donald Trump, like the way Brad Lander was a bit, you're not getting that much press, and you have an extremely difficult job because you're, basically the accountant for the city. So controller gets 243,000, give or take, it says. And that to me is a job that honestly probably should pay a little bit more. Yeah. I think mayor, because mayor, all the perks you get along with being mayor, like mayor is a extremely time-consuming job, but day to day, I don't think the difficulty level is that high. The difficulty level is the stress, is the being under a microscope. That's the tough parts. Like you're not actually like toiling away at paperwork when you're the mayor. Everyone who works under you is doing that. Someone says Staten Island Borough President probably gets paid in cigarettes and scratchers. Agree. I know a lot of people who would work for that though. All right. So that's that. I also have a quick call to action. I'll put the link to the petition in the show notes. But again, right before I logged on, my friend Tess, who I met through doing work to get Bill A101 passed, she is an amazing woman, and she is a survivor. And she is just like, she's just not having a good time as far as getting her case, pushed through the system and everything. She lives in New Jersey, so she's dealing with Mayor Wayne Zitt. This is Gutenberg, New Jersey. But she just needs some signatures on a petition. She was the victim of a violent crime, and her abuser basically there was an abuser who lives in her same complex with her still. She told me the whole story on a train ride home a couple weeks ago after we did a press conference for Bill A101. And it really moved me. And this is someone who does not have a lot of support. And, all it takes literally 30 seconds to sign this petition. And if you want the full details of the story, it's just kind of, get people locally to pay attention to what she's going through and to demand action. But I'll include that change.org petition in there. And again, I know we kind of laugh at change.org petitions, but also it is on paper that the left does a lot less calling and signing. So this is what Tess asked us to do. This is what she said would be helpful to her right now. So if you could do that, again, not asking for money, not asking even to post anything. If you want to post on your social media, that would be great. But the whole story is there. And again, she's told it to me in person. I'd love to get her on, one or both of my shows, but she kind of is literally, semi in hiding right now. So I want to make sure that the priority is keeping her safe because she's in the presence of a lot of bad people. All right. And then just an update from last week from Wacko Margarita Krainova, who you're so great. You're always writing into the show. I was hoping that someone who is a lawyer or who is going into law was listening to my Patagonia analysis last week to make sure that I was explaining everything correctly. And Margarita left a YouTube comment that says, I want to compliment Corinne's very clear explanation of trademark law. And I'm not just reading this to compliment myself. She gets to more information pertaining to Patagonia and Patagonia. As a law student who just finished taking a semester of trademark law and who is planning to go into intellectual property law upon graduation, which is so important, especially to artists. Christina and I didn't have, if we didn't have the knowledge of entertainment law that we thankfully had from working at Liebman Entertainment, which is where we met, we would have accidentally probably signed away our IP when we started GWF. But because we knew about that, we had a preliminary understanding of IP and its value. And when a comedy club presented us with a contract basically saying that it would own our IP, I said, we absolutely cannot sign that. And, had we signed that, we wouldn't own GWF today. So it's just super important work to be doing. Shout out to Margarita. She goes on to say, Corinne explained the law and legal precedent clearly and accurately. I want to add on to what she mentioned, how there are people online expressing concern that Patagonia, the company, trademarked their name based on a real place, which was part of the conversation that we had. So many people were being like, how can you even trademark Patagonia? It's a place that exists in nature. And she gives us a specific act that covers this. She goes on to say, under the Lanham Act, LANHAM, a mark that is primarily geographically descriptive, Patagonia in this case, cannot be registered as a trademark unless it acquires secondary meaning. So Patagonia, the company, was able to acquire its trademark by showing secondary meaning in the minds of the consumer. What that means is that when people hear the name of the company, they think of the company before they even think about the place, which is definitely true for me, more often than not. So I thought that was really interesting that there is actual, we talked about the legal precedent as far as, the dog toy company that was obviously imitating Jack Daniels and all that kind of stuff, but this is specifically about a place that exists in nature that has been so commercialized. I don't know if this is good news, but it is legally covered in Patagonia's favor. So I thought that was really interesting. Thank you for sharing that, Margarita. And she goes on to say, thank you as always for such a great episode, and to Corinne, Mike, and everyone who helps with this amazing show each week. All right, moving on to our enemy of the state. This week's enemy of the state is an AI musician who has an AI song topping the charts. The AI performer's name is IngaRose. It's one word, INGAROSE. I don't know if you can find a picture of this person, Mike, but if you guys follow Bernie Sanders online, this was a video he just recently posted that made me want to do some further research. And it was about how AI songs at this point are topping the charts. And so this is from Forbes. And it says, and this is from April, but again, it was just, Bernie is the one who brought this to my attention because, as I have said, he's been doing a lot of conversations about AI. And I really appreciate his conversations because they are nuanced. His commentary on AI isn't don't use AI. And unfortunately, I feel like that's the conversation. There's either people who don't give an F. They think it's fun. They like to listen to the Puerto Rico song, made on Suno, and they just don't care about the environment or our brains or what's happening to our ability to think and advocate and be autonomous and make decisions for ourselves. They don't care about any of that. They just want fun and entertainment served to them. And then on the flip side, there's people who literally think that the ocean is going to be dry by the end of the week if we ask, Claude one question. So these are the two frames. And I really appreciate Bernie because I really think that we need to have a nuanced conversation because I think there's a lot of amazing things that AI can help us do if in the right hands, which, it's not at the helm of the right hands for now. That's for sure. Although when I use AI, I did make that switch when we talked about it a while ago from ChatGPT to Claude, and there was a marked difference. You can just tell that Claude was created by people who have morals at least, or some or a little more morals. And so this is from Forbes.
I think you're drinking the Kool-Aid there.
No, I'm not. You can tell by interacting with it. Mike, have you spent a long time interacting with either?
No, I don't trust these robots. Why would I spend a long time interacting with something that's not real and designed to make me feel at peace, at ease, and docile?
No, you can train it not to do that. You have to talk back to it. You have to advocate for yourself within it, because you need to know how to use these things. Okay.
Or burn down the data centers, one or the other.
Well, I wouldn't recommend burning them down, because that's also going to harm the environment. Burning a data center down physically will cause environmental impact. Okay, so Forbes says the #1 song on US iTunes and several other countries is AI generated. And so it's this song Celebrate Me, which I wasn't familiar with it, but I played it, and like #1, I was like, oh, this is the exact kind of inspirational nonsense song that people love. But also, like, they were able to create this like country gritty, it's giving Melissa Etheridge type voice, and it's all fake. But Celebrate Me, a TikTok viral song that was created with the AI music generator, it's Suno, is #1 on the iTunes chart in the United States and several other countries as the AI music generator grows in popularity despite some industry pushback. So it's charting in the US. This is in April again, but I somehow missed the music charts, but it was charting in the United States, in the UK, in France, in Canada, and New Zealand. The song appeared to gain popularity on TikTok, where a profile for IngaRose has more than 220,000 followers. And it was composed using the AI music generator Suno, according to IngaRose's TikTok profile, which also claims the lyrics are human written and reflect real stories. So again, that's how they're kind of like inching their way in, because that was like a big discussion when I posted that video about the Puerto Rico song, and I did specify that the lyrics were written by a human. But the more I learn about Suno, I had that theory. James says, of course, the famous AI artist is targeting the South. Yeah. Well, again, like the kind of song that it is just kind of this, like, it's the kind of song that someone who has a live, laugh, love, would cut out in their kitchen would absolutely love. And I did have this
big with the death before dishonor crowd, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and it's
a lot of guys with no regrets tattoos bumping
no regrets. I can see trad wives liking it. Definitely women who still love like a skinny jean, a neon orange toenail polish, toe rings, and like a straw cowboy hat. Who don't use sunscreen, like this kind of a crowd, but. Yeah, I mean, I think we'll get bumped if we even play it, but go just listen to a tiny piece of Celebrate Me by IngaRose, like it's on Spotify and stuff, and you'll know exactly what I mean. And the fact, and now again, the more I talk about this and the more I learn about Suno, I had this inkling that's kind of like that they were using like individual creators and pushing this narrative that was like, well, it's about, human stories, and like humans are writing it, and it's just for people who maybe aren't good at like singing or composing music or playing instruments. And my pushback on that is like, yeah, if you're not good at singing and composing music, then you can't be a songwriter. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I would love to be a famous singer. I am not good enough at singing. Therefore, I cannot be. The conversation stops there. Apparently, in this world, I don't have to be, though. Meg Stalter also said to me, she goes, you don't need to sing to be a pop star. I said, I love you, Meg. Inspirational. And then it goes on to say that 5 of the top 100 songs, again, this is back in April, on US iTunes as of Friday afternoon are by IngaRose. That's so freaking weird. And I wonder how many people think this is like a real person. Yeah, Mike, what?
Maybe. I do think that so much of that, though, is like, if you think about it, right? The AI is building a song to get caught in the AI algorithm. You know what I mean? It's like it's working from within inside the house. And then I think there is certain algorithms where it's like, okay, the AI made a song that's going to appeal mostly to the AI. The AI users, the dead internet theory, right? Like, half of every single person on the internet is a bot. I think it's even greater than half the people on the internet right now is a bot. So it's like you think all that traffic is then getting funneled to other bots being told, by being liked by other bots. And then, the thing's got 300,000 videos on TikTok. I think there are just recurring, purchases being made on iTunes. And realistically,
well, and also if like people find out like, oh, this is one of the first AI artists, just, the reason I hit play and gave it one listen was because I was interested in the concept.
Right. And a little blue gecko says AI is a corporate nepo baby, which I do kind of like. But like, you take it from there. How many people need to buy a song for it to chart on iTunes? How many people are buying individual songs on iTunes? I feel like it has to be, 1/100th of what it was at its heyday in like the mid 2000s. So it's like this all feels very manipulatable is what I was looking for.
Yeah, and I mean, when you go to IngaRose on Instagram, at least, and you're probably more on TikTok, but on Instagram has 372,000 followers now, and it says human written lyrics, real stories, stems and arrangement refined using Suno. Singers who want to bring these songs to life or need a writer reach out. So they're definitely like recruiting people. It is, I will say, it's extremely clear that this is an AI generated. Like they don't try to even make this seem like there are some accounts where there's an AI person who is the star of the account where it's kind of unclear if they're human or AI. This is very clearly an AI singer. They made her like this, beautiful, like a woman of color. I guess she's supposed to be black or perhaps mixed. I can't tell. But they're doing they're doing the trick where they're like, she's kind of racially ambiguous, but really, really hot, which is mainly the most important thing in life. And then it says IngaRose's chart success comes as the AI music generator Suno booms in popularity, which has sparked both controversy among critics of AI generated art and sent other AI personas up the music charts. It's not clear who is behind the IngaRose persona, but the AI artist has been releasing music since January, according to its social media profiles and its release history on music streaming services. IngaRose has released a handful of singles and 3 full-length albums between February and March. Damn. According to its Spotify profile, the artist also maintains an Instagram account and a YouTube channel. IngaRose is the latest AI-generated artist to find success on the charts, as the services like Suno have garnered significant popularity. Zanya Monet, an AI-generated artist persona created by songwriter Talisha Nikki Jones, topped a Billboard R&B song sales chart last year and became the first AI act to appear on a radio airplay chart. Breaking Rust, an AI-generated country act, has also appeared on Billboard charts and garnered 25 million Spotify streams for Livin' on Borrowed Time, the act's biggest hit. Despite some industry pushback, Suno also scored a key partnership with prolific producer Timbaland, who said users can put out great songs in minutes using the tool. God presented this tool to me, Timbaland previously told Rolling Stone, saying he probably made 1,000 beats in 3 months. Oh my God. $2.45 billion.
God said the same thing about Timbaland.
Oh my God. $2.45 billion. That's how much Suno is worth following a fundraising round. It closed in November. The AI music generator also said in February it had reached 2 million paid subscribers and that 100 million people had used it, including the free version, to generate music. Suno has faced pushback in the music industry and lawsuits from all major record labels who accused it of training its AI models on copyrighted music, though several of these suits have since been settled. Again, I talked a lot about this in the Puerto Rico song video. Universal Music Group said Sony Music Entertainment maintain active lawsuits against Suno, though Bloomberg previously reported the labels are in talks to settle. Several artists' rights groups, including the Music Artists Coalition, European Composer and Songwriter Alliance, and Artists' Rights Institute, launched a Say No to Suno campaign in February, accusing the company of scraping the world's cultural output without permission. The group also accused Suno of diluting the royalty pool that streaming services allocate to artists by flooding these platforms with AI slop. Suno has previously defended itself against copyright accusations by saying its AI models are akin to a kid learning to write new rock songs by listening religiously to rock music. That's a stretch. Hundreds of artists, including Billie Eilish, Nicki Minaj, Katy Perry, and Stevie Wonder, signed an open letter in 2024 urging Suno and AI companies to stop training their technology on copyrighted music. Isn't it? Wouldn't it be copywritten music? Copyrighted music? Okay, I guess. All right. So I just thought that was very interesting. Yeah.
Well, I think the proliferation of the word Suno into the vocabulary in the last couple of weeks is pretty interesting, right? Like
I haven't heard it used again. You are in different circles than me. So how people are saying like I Suno'd this song, or
no, just so the first time I heard about this app, it was when the Goldman Sachs CEO was speaking at Wharton. Mm-hmm. You might remember him. He's the CEO of Goldman Sachs, who goes by DJ D Soul while he's spinning on the ones and twos in Montauk all summer, right?
I have no idea who you're. I mean, I know Goldman Sachs, obviously. I have no idea.
He's the CEO of Goldman Sachs, and he's a fucking DJ. Like he legitimately thinks he's a DJ.
Who isn't? Okay.
Sure, right. But he was like, in his commencement speech at Wharton Business School, he was like, yeah, AI is pretty much taking your jobs, and like it's going to, and that's the reality. He's like, I just made this song on Suno, this new app to play, and like he played the song.
Did he get booed? Because every time people have been bringing up AI at commencement speeches, like I'm like, how? Like, when will these people learn? Like, stop saying that. You're getting booed at every single commencement speech.
It was a dog shit song, and he got booed for it, and he got booed out of the building, just like the rest of these people do. But it's like, just the I don't know. Like you got the Goldman CEO talking about it. Forbes is like, oh, this thing is revolutionizing music. It's 5 of the top 100 songs were created on this app.
Yeah, it just feels like they're pushing like too hard to try and make something like cool that isn't cool. Again, I think there's a use on it for it, and I would love more people conversing about it in a way that doesn't feel like they're trying to drug us. But Bernie Sanders right now is the only like major name that I feel like is doing it, because we have the tech heads who are obviously like on the side of it. James says, that's the issue I have with it. It is so unfair to these real artists. This AI can do in a month what it takes any decent artist a year to do. And we keep seeing, ways this happened also with the introduction of just like streaming music itself. That was the conversation when I was younger, that that they were having, that artists could only make money from touring once we were able to, pay $12 a month or whatever it is for Spotify and listen to all the music that we wanted. People stopped buying full albums, full records, whatever it is. And so, these artists will then have to find other ways to make money, which, is why we're, seeing them create things like, like Fenty or sell perfumes. It's like, because that's the one thing that they can still maintain ownership over, is if they're making something, slapping their face on it. And it's miraculous that Taylor Swift was able to become a billionaire without making, well, actually she might have a perfume, I don't know, I'd have to fact check that. Archer says AI was supposed to do the laundry and clean the house so humans could make art and music. Turns out it's the other way around. Yeah, I mean, you saw that robot trying to wash the dishes. It wasn't really very good. I'm not even that good at washing the dishes, and I can do it faster than that. All right, moving on to our Patreon. Just want to shout out our amazing dictator, Christopher Fungi. Hello. Thank you for your amazing leadership, as always. Hello to my capitalist pigs. And a big hello to my newest capitalist pig, Paige Allison Hunter. Thank you so much for being here and supporting the show. Hello to my cuties. How are you doing? If you guys want to support the show for as little as $6 a month, buy the news subscriptions, pay all the wonderful people, Mike, Crystal, sometimes AJ, who work on the show. You're going to head over to patreon.com/withoutacountry. And, as I've been doing with Christopher, we have the Dictator article of the month. He sent me a couple, but this was a Cuties Corner article that I thought was quite interesting that I would share with you. And this is from goodgoodgood.com. We'll do some positive news. Not trying to be a Debbie Downer all the time. Although I do wear my like Debbie Downer badge with pride. Someone's got to tell you about the bad stuff. But this is Meet Splash, the country's first search and recovery otter who can find missing people underwater. And this says, when most people think of animals that support grueling search and rescue efforts in the wake of disasters, crime, or conflict, they picture dogs. And those canines can really make a difference. But one thing they can't do for long periods of time is do this work underwater. So Michael Hadsell, president of Florida-based Peace River Canine Search and Rescue, has turned to river otters, specifically Splash. And do you have access to all these to bring up or no? Splash is a 2-year-old Asian small-clawed otter who has been trained to assist in underwater search and recovery missions. He's turned into something of a celebrity, believed to be the only otter in the country who has successfully been trained in this work. After 46 years in the search and rescue world, Hasdell has worked with canines, horses, and drones across the United States and internationally. Once he realized there was a need to improve underwater missions, a spark of inspiration took hold. I was reading an article on a flight back from Los Angeles about otters and how they possibly can work odor underwater and hunt underwater using odor and using their whiskers, Hadsell told AAHA, a magazine of the American Animal Hospital Association. And I started thinking, well, if they can work odor underwater, then we can train them. Soon, he was a man with a plan. Hasdell went to Mote Marine and Aquarium in Sarasota, Florida, where he observed trainers working with otters. He realized it was extremely similar to training a dog. I realized, well, they are they're little puppies in the water. I realized at that point that, yeah, I think we can do this. We can make this happen, he told AAHA. And so we went to work. As it turns out, otters are incredibly intelligent and have strong sensory organs that can sniff out human remains. While Splash is mostly focused on search and recovery, not rescue, his role is paramount to bringing closure to people who may have lost a loved one. In fact, bodies of water like oceans and lakes have long been places where human remains are never recovered. But Splash can hold his breath. I mean, guys, are you thinking next true crime documentary on Netflix? Because I am. Splash can hold his breath for 5 minutes, and he's easy to train. In his home swimming pool, Hasdell hides an object that's been marked with the odor of human remains, then places the same smell on a ball on the end of a stick. When he gives him a signal, Splash will sniff the ball and dive into the pool to seek out the target. Otters smell underwater in a unique way, blowing bubbles at a target and then quickly breathing them back in where they absorb odors. Once Splash captures an odor target, he alerts his handlers, who are often diving with him. He comes up and starts grabbing my mask to tell me he's got something, and he's not going to let me get away until I start moving forward, Hasdell said. Splash wears a custom harness to be attached to Hasdell underwater, and once he spots a scent target, he lays on top of it so humans can mark a precise search area. And when Splash is successful, he gets a piece of salmon. Cute. It has to be farm-raised salmon, Hasdell quipped to Outside Magazine. He won't eat wild salmon. So far, Splash has been successful in the field. After 4 months of training, he was able to help recover a weapon used in a 25-year murder case. At just 8 months old, he was also able to locate human DNA on a clay brick at the bottom of a lake, bringing closure to the family of a murder victim. And he's been called on at least 20 other recovery missions since. There are still safety concerns that keep the otter safe and well. Splash can work in all kinds of water, fresh water or salt water, but even if it's perfectly clear, he is not allowed to go any deeper than 30 feet. And if currents are strong, he stays back too. oh my God, this guy is so cute. The search has to qualify for the Otter or we don't use him, Hegseth told AAHA. And then, of course, there are predators in open waters that pose a risk to Splash. I have folks on the team who wear shirts that say Otter Spotter on them, Hegseth added. They watch for alligators and anything else, so they're constantly keeping track of him so we know where he is and where the dangers are. Otters are also sensitive to illness, though Splash's protective oil often keeps him protected in murky waters. But on rare occasion, he needs a bath with Dawn dish soap, and then he has to take a few days off to let his oils balance out. As finicky as his nature may be, Splash has become a beloved member of the PRSARK9 team, even working alongside search and rescue canines like his best buddy Nova. He's out there with the rest of them wanting to do his thing, Hegseth told AAHA. He's part of the team now. Oh, we needed a little good news. So I thought that was a great dictator news article. Thank you so much to our wonderful dictator, Christopher Fungi, for pulling that for us. And also, we needed a little palate cleanse before we go into a Cuties corner that's much sadder. But this is a passion of mine. This was my on my day one agenda for today. And if I were
your mayorship.
If I was someone texted me something. So if I was running for mayor, this was going to be my day one thing. They always, that's a popular question. What are you doing on day one? What's on your day one to-do list? And mine was to stop carriage horses from being around in New York City. And unfortunately, yet another carriage horse has died in Central Park. This is actually from a UK publication, International Business Times UK. And I thought it was interesting that, something like a carriage horse death was even being covered internationally, which is why I chose this. But it says carriage horse dies in Central Park, triggering fresh calls for Mamdani to ban horse-drawn rides. And, obviously it has something to do with elected officials and like their relationship with the people who make a living off the carriage horses, but it's like give or take 200 individuals, in a city of over 8 million. And not that every person and their well-being isn't important, but my theory is just like we could have worked in the budget, like to basically, find these people other jobs or to start the process of doing the electric carriage rides, which was, what most people were pitching to make sure that these people continue to be employed. But you can't just be like, oh, this is my livelihood. I have to keep abusing horses because that's how I feed my family. Like that to me is unacceptable. So, and like the video is so horrific. This animal is like the tongue is sticking out. It's on the ground. He is like suffering. It's awful. The horse's sudden death raises pressure for Mamdani to ban horse-drawn carriages and replace them with electric alternatives instead. A carriage horse dies in Central Park after collapsing while still attached to a tourist carriage in Manhattan on Tuesday evening. The horse, named Deniz, was working inside Central Park when it suddenly went down, prompting calls for Mayor Zohran Mamdani to move ahead with a ban on horse-drawn rides, an issue that has lingered in city politics for years. The incident, which unfolded around 7:30 p.m., was captured on video, shared online, and later reported by U.S. media, showing bystanders attempting to free the animal as it lay on its side. The driver later said that the horse collapsed in 2 seconds and described the loss as deeply personal. Fuck that. You know that you shouldn't be doing this. It's deeply personal. Why? Because now you don't have money to make off of this horse that you're abusing. Fuck that. No official cause of death has yet been confirmed, and a necropsy is expected. And again, like the footage is there. VFAR, is a great place to go for, which is Voters for Animal Rights. That's a great place to go for kind of the most up-to-date, like Cuties corners information as far as New York City goes. But again, locally, I'm sure everyone has a similar way to access information wherever they live. Horse-drawn carriages in Central Park have long been both a tourist and political fixture. Animal welfare groups have repeatedly pushed for their removal, while unions representing carriage drivers argue the industry is safe when properly regulated. The most recent legislative push, known as Riders Law, was defeated by New York City's City Council in 2022, despite sustained campaigning. The death of Dennis has reactivated argument.
Yes. Just wondering, like, because I remember you were very passionate about Riders Law. Like, when that got shut down by City Council, was that the impetus where it was like, all right, enough talking? Like, you know, sure, I'll put like, you know, Trump on it, but I'm running for something in New York because this is no good.
What? Like, I love Riders Law. I wasn't running for mayor solely to make Riders Law pass, though.
No, but I'm saying it got shut down in 2022. So I'm saying, like, was that like the first spark where it's like, I need to do something myself? If no one else is going to get this done, I have to.
Not the spark. It was just like part of a larger thing. I had been passionate about stopping carriage horses for many years. Obviously, like the death of Ryder, though, did reignite it citywide in a big way. But there have been, you know, advocates that have been working on this for years and years. You know, there was a lot, you know, Adrienne Adams is a lot to blame that this, you know, as far as I'm concerned in my research, that this hasn't passed yet. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, obviously there's no, like, New Yorkers don't want this. Like, this is purely for tourists. So in my like assessment of the situation, and I can't like accuse her of things that I have no proof of, but like, I feel like she has to have some kind of monetary stake in the game or some relationship with these people who are giving rides to tourists. Like, there's no other reason why she is like seemingly gone out of her way to make sure that Riders Law like doesn't pass. Like, I'd have to talk with a lot more city council members, but it's very unclear. It's kind of like Bill A101. You're like, what's going on that I'm missing? Because this doesn't make any sense. Animal welfare groups have repeatedly pushed for their removal, while unions representing carriage drivers argue the industry is safe when properly regulated. The most recent legislative push, known as Riders Law, was defeated by New York City City Council in 2022, despite sustained campaigning. The death of Dennis has reactivated arguments that have simmered for years, particularly questions over animal welfare in extreme urban conditions. Yeah, they just shouldn't be there. And it's also like New Yorkers also don't want it. And this is not the reason that should pass, but like the horses shit all over the park. Like, we do not like this. And then you're rollerblading and biking and walking through horse manure because they don't pick up the horse's manure. And like, it would be fine if it was like horse manure on a grassy area that needs to be fertilized, but it's not. It's on the blacktop. There doesn't need to be poop on the blacktop. No, everyone hates it. It makes the park smelly. Like, everyone doesn't like it. The horses, you know, there's tons of video and photo proof of where their stables are. They're small. The conditions aren't good. Like, horses shouldn't be in New York City. Like, they should be in a farm enjoying their life, or on a farm enjoying their life. According to Newsweek, the horse was 16 years old and had recently been examined by the NYPD mounted unit's veterinarian in March, who found it fit for duty. Advocates say that detail will now be scrutinized closely given the sudden nature of the collapse. And, you know, this also starts to happen more and more. These collapses often happen when it's hot, when it gets really hot, because, you know, it goes to, you know, pretty temperate to excruciating temperatures in New York really quickly. Again, they're on the blacktop. The blacktop gets especially hot. You know, a lot of more tourists are going to be wanting rides when the weather is nice out. And so they're going to be used more, and it's just bad news. Again, I say it every single time, but if you are visiting New York City, we welcome you here. Please do not take a horse-drawn carriage. You can enjoy Central Park so many other ways. It's a beautiful place. Please walk around it. You do not need to take a horse-drawn carriage. We're all making fun of you anyway. Even like people who aren't, like, you were like, look at these fucking dorks. Let's see. Animal rights campaigners argue that Dennis's death is part of a pattern of incidents involving carriage horses in the city. Social media posts under the video claimed that this was the second such collapse this year, though those figures have not been independently verified in official city records. The timing of the incident has also been supervised. A heat advisory had been issued for New York City on the day of the collapse, as always, raising further questions about working conditions for carriage horses during high temperatures. For now, however, it remains unclear whether conditions contributed to the animal the animal's death. Mayor Zoran Mamdani has previously said he supports phasing out horse-drawn carriages. And even that language, the fact that he's saying phasing out, when again, it is 200 people in a city of over 8 million people. Something is going on behind the curtains politically that is stopping this from happening. Though he also pointed to the city council as the body responsible for passing any formal ban. Following, you can, if he wanted to veto this, I'm pretty sure that he is the mayor. Yeah, because I looked into this. Veto. Especially a mayor like Zoran who is so powerful right now. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's trying to put this off on other people when he could really make this happen. Let's see. Following Dennis's death, that position is once again under probe, with campaigners urging the mayor to take a more direct role in pushing legislation forward. Riders' law, first introduced after a separate horse collapse in 2022, proposed replacing horse-drawn carriages with electric alternatives. It failed to advance beyond the committee stage despite backing from animal welfare organizations and opposition from the Transport Workers Union, which represents carriage drivers. The union has consistently defended the industry, arguing that horses are well cared for and that critics underestimate the nature of their work. In earlier statements following similar incidents, union representatives have said horses are regularly examined and that accidents, while tragic, are not evidence of systemic abuse. Still, public reaction to Dennis's death has been sharply polarized. Animal rights advocates say the video evidence shows clear distress in the animal's final moments. I agree. Watch the video. While industry representatives caution against concluding before veterinary findings are released. Officials have not yet confirmed whether any regulatory review will follow the incident. A spokesperson for Mamdani's office was contacted for comment, but has not responded at the time of the publication. And then it goes into like the city of it. But yeah, this is just like a constant problem in New York. But it's one of those things like there's in a city where so much is going on. Like it's just something where like a horse dies, we talk about it for a week or two, and then something else happens. And also, unfortunately for Dennis, not a good time to die while the Knicks are in the finals, because this is definitely going to go away even faster than usual unless you're an animal advocate. But real fucked up. And again, something is going. I would love for someone to get to the bottom of this because something is going on that we don't know about. There's no reason that this is still happening. We can go into the wacko mailbag now. There's a smattering of like local news and some other things going on in the wacko mailbag today, but I wanted to get to a bunch of things because I feel like we've been so jam-packed on this show that we haven't gotten to as many wacko mailbags as I like to get to. And of course, if you want to send me an email, it's withoutacountrypodcast@gmail.com. So this first wacko mailbag is from, did I delete? Who is it from? Oh no, this is from Wacko Jade. Shout out Jade. Hello. I saw the picture of us together. I remember that day. I know who you are. I know what you look like anyway. But yes, thank you so much for all the contributions that you make to the show. I appreciate it. This is about Pete Hegseth being the fucking worst, as she writes in her email. The least surprising article I've read doesn't make me any less angry or frustrated. I actually got this from the Lip Slut newsletter. It's great. Lip Slut has been a brand that I've worked with, and we've worked with on GWF for many years. They make great lip products, and they always donate part of their profits to some type of like social like activism nonprofit. They did a a clear gloss that I promoted for anti-ice, and they've just like they did a fuck Trump color back in the day when Trump was first elected. I love them because they combine two of my passions, makeup, specifically lip color, and activism. So shout out to them. And yeah, I didn't even know that they had a political newsletter, but I really love to see that. And I love that it's good and it's informative. I'm also glad that you sent this article in because I had this story on the docket last week and we just did not get to it because there was so much to get to. But this is about how Pete Hegseth was removing certain people from from Navy promotion list. So this is from The Guardian. Pete Hegseth removes all women and some Black service members from Navy promotion list. Crazy. So Defense Secretary's latest interposition resulted in all male, overwhelmingly white picks for promotion to admiralty. The U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth stripped 9 Navy officers, including women and Black service members, from a promotion list last month. And this was from the 3rd of June, this article. According to a person familiar with the matter, resulting in an all-male, overwhelmingly white slate of 22 advancing as nominees to become one-star admirals. Hegseth's unusual intervention violated promotion rules designed to be merit-based and apolitical, the New York Times said on Tuesday, and extended the Trump administration's push to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion in the military. The original promotion list included 3 women and 2 Black officers in addition to the 2 who remained, the newspaper said. A Navy source said that officials in the service had been very confident with those on the promotion list, including the officers whom Hegseth removed. He said Hegseth did not explain to the Navy why he removed the officers from the list. One government source familiar with the matter said Hegseth had his favorite MOSs, which is military occupational specialties, and then gender and race. He went through the list and scrubbed a few names. It was felt loud and clear. The Pentagon disputed that Hegseth blocked promotions based on race or gender. Well, of course, they're not going to just admit. You know what? Honestly, they're getting so comfortable that maybe very soon they will admit it, but it's pretty clear right now. As we've said before, military promotions are given to those who have earned them. The department will never consider the color of a service member's skin or their gender as a factor in promotions, said Sean Parnell, the chief Pentagon spokesperson. Under President Trump and Secretary Hegseth, meritocracy reigns supreme at the War Department. The move has direct parallels with Hegseth's reported interposition in a similar Army promotion list in March, in which he is said to have directed the Army Secretary Dan Driscoll to remove 2 women and 2 Black officers from a nomination slate to become one-star generals. Hegseth has previously railed against diversity and so-called woke in the armed services. For too long, we've promoted too many uniform leaders for the wrong reasons, based on their race, based on gender quotas, based on historic so-called firsts, he told a keynote meeting of military commanders in Virginia in September. The sooner we have the right people, the sooner we can advance the right policies. I mean, if that doesn't send shivers down your spine. Hegseth's involvement in the promotions list is unusual, according to a former military official. It's supposed to be an up and down vote from the defense secretary. He's continuing to meddle on an individual basis, he said. He's stripping autonomy from the service secretaries. One name still on the latest Navy list published on the 22nd of May is Captain Sean Barbabella, Donald Trump's White House physician, who last week declared the almost 80-year-old president to be in, quote, excellent health, despite photographs showing him at times with swollen ankles, bruised hands, and a blotchy neck. Hegseth stepped in to overrule a board of Navy admirals that had drawn up the list, the Times said, also removing 4 white officers. The outlet noted that the list as published, which must be confirmed by the U.S. Senate, bears little relation to the makeup of the force the nominees will lead. The report cites a 2024 government profile of the Navy's active service composition, which revealed that more than 21% are women and that almost 40% identify with racial minority groups. The Guardian reported in March that Hegseth, who styles himself the Secretary of War, acted soon after his confirmation as defense secretary last year to block promotions or redeploy senior military officers, 60% of them women or Black. He reassigned who is this? Admiral Yvette Davids, the first woman to lead the U.S. Naval Academy, and dismissed another Navy Vice Admiral, Shoshana Chatfield, as the U.S. military representative to the NATO Military Committee. Hegseth also dismissed Admiral Lisa Franchetti as Chief of Naval Operations. Coast Guard Commandant Linda Fagan, who served for 37 years and was the longest serving active duty Marine safety officer, was dismissed on the 20th of January, 2025. Sorry, it's British. The first day of Trump's second term of office, 4 days before Hegseth's narrow Senate confirmation. Overall, the Times said Hegseth has fired or sidelined nearly 36 senior military officers. The actions extend the Trump administration's efforts to reshape the U.S. military, which have included attempts to ban women from combat roles and blocking transgender troops from serving. A federal appeals court in Washington, D.C. on Monday delivered a setback to the anti-diversity push by ruling that the government acted illegally by moving to dismiss transgender service members. The case is expected to reach the Supreme Court. And I believe that was already, I think a judge, I have to look into this, but I just read something about like a judge being like, yeah, you can't say, like, you can't just decide that you're dismissing transgender service members. I just read something about that. Like they told the Trump administration, like, yeah, you can't just do that. So yeah, that article, again, crazy, but not surprising, which is, the theme for this administration in general, and as always, for anyone who is still pro-Trump, who is a woman, or a Black person, he's not on your side, unfortunately. And then this is another thing from the Wacko mailbag from Wacko Maddie. This is just kind of funny, and it's not, it's not municipal, but it is local news, and it's about a candidate who's running for governor of Colorado. I don't know if you can pull up this Instagram video, Mike, but it is worth it. I watched it before. It's like funny / troubling. But Maddie writes, I've attached a video of an interview of Victor Marks, a Republican who killed a man when he was a child, which I'm going to need more information on that, and is asked in this interview if he has killed anyone else. And the answer is like terrifying. She said, I hope one of the Democrats will win, but still insanely wild. And there is
abusive step.
And there's also like an accompanying article that says MAGA from the Daily Beast, MAGA frontrunner for governor refuses to say how many people he killed. So again, it's,
you want me to play this or?
Yeah, well, yeah, I just wanted to get to kind of like say like, this is not just a crazy person who says he's running for governor. This is someone who has momentum for sure.
That father forced you to kill a man when you were 7 years old. Is that the only person you've ever killed?
Can you hear that or no?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say as a child, yes. I mean, without question. But I've been in other situations where, possibly people or persons died as a result of me defending myself in other countries.
Do you think that you've killed people as an adult?
Does it matter?
Incredible
Yeah,
answer.
so.
Why?
Like, killing somebody is a pretty weighty thing.
If someone's trying to kill you or you're in combat?
It's still a weighty thing to take somebody else's life. I mean, it could be self-defense, it could be justified, but it's still a weighty thing. So I'm just asking you, how many people have you killed?
Well, if I did, I wouldn't be telling a reporter sitting here.
The OJ defense. If
I
did.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
There's no need. I don't think that's important. It's actually it's an odd question to me.
Because you actually talk about the idea of killing people with some frequency, and why it's a necessary thing to do, killing people. You said on NRA TV in 2017, now a lot of them just got to be killed. I've had them shoot at me and I had to shoot back. There's a time and place to eliminate the enemy, and you have to. You said on Jeff Lerner's podcast in 2025, some people have to get killed. Some people have to die.
Dude, he looks like
but
he's
it's an odd
kill
question to ask you how many people you've killed.
Yes.
You claim that you once called in a U.S. military airstrike that killed 70 ISIS fighters. I didn't realize that civilians could essentially facilitate military airstrikes. Could you walk me through how that worked?
No.
Your claim that your abusive step.
Okay, so that's wild. And like, there is a note. I don't know if you can see on the side of the Instagram, like it's not coming up for me, but it's blocking me. But when I placed this on the doc, there is a note on the side that says, to cover his, like he is in the he was in the military, but there was a note saying like he was never deployed, so he should have, never had an opportunity to kill anyone. Because obviously, like if he was, serving and killed someone because he had been deployed, that would be a different reason for having killed someone. Like obviously, still sad, human life is lost, but it would at least make sense why he was answering it in the way he did. But there was like a note that I saw that was like, yeah, no, he was never deployed. So that even though he was in the military, this makes no sense. I don't know if you see that note there. But quite wild.
Yeah, it's this line here at the bottom of the Instagram. It says Marks, who served in the military but never deployed or saw combat, has carefully crafted his image as a quote unquote dangerous gentleman, the title of his book. But it's not clear how much is true and how much is big talk to sell books and raise funds for his $7 million a year ministry.
Oh, he's a minister too. I didn't see that part.
Obviously, he's killing for the Lord, Corinne.
Dangerous gentleman. Wait, okay, so wait, it's dangerousgentleman.com. It says dangerous gentlemen become dangerous. What the fuck is that? Oh, this gets darker and darker. It says a brotherhood built for strong minds, steady hearts, and bold action. Join the Dangerous Gentleman Society. Wait, is this him though? Yeah, it has to be because this is him. Oh, he has a podcast. Oh my god. God.
Yeah, it's like fucking Tate Hustlers Academy or whatever.
Yeah.
Or Andrew Wilson's debate school. Like it's the same grift.
Wait, okay. So you need you might need to take this assessment, Mike, but it says find your accountability, brother. Most men know what they should do. Few have another man holding them to it. Take the 3-minute assessment and discover the accountability partnership built to help you grow. I want to take the assessment, but I want to so this is the first question. When your team hits a wall, and what team? It's not specified. What are they? What am I talking about? It's like, is it my military team? Is it my team at the marketing company? It says, when your team hits a wall, what do they see from you? A, I take point, I give direction, and we move. B, I slow down, assess, and make a calculated call. C, I pull the men together. So there's no women on the team. We solve it as a unit. D, I find the guy who's struggling most and shore him up. What does shore him up even mean? What does that mean?
Well, I mean, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, Corinne. So,
right.
you
shore him up, kill him?
Yeah. So get rid of him, and now we have a much stronger weakest link.
No, it means to support, strengthen, or reinforce a person to prevent them from failing, collapsing, or failing mentally.
Yeah, I thought we were kidding around.
No, I never really heard that like phrase.
Oh, shore up?
I get maybe, or maybe it was something that I thought I didn't realize they were saying shore like seashore. Maybe I was like mishearing it. Okay, I don't even know how to I don't know how to answer this to go further. I guess I would say I would slow down, assess, and make a calculated call. Feels so cunning.
I'm taking my own man assessment to see if I am in fact a dangerous gentleman, and I'm A, right? Like I see a thing, I go, all right, you go here, let's get this done.
Right. I mean, I'm not against A. It's just like it's like saying team. I'm like, what team? Is it a political team? Is it a team that we're like, if it's like, are we physically on the ground together? Because then I don't have time to slow down and assess. Like I need a lot more information.
You're a dangerous gentleman living in a dangerous world, Corinne. Figure it out.
I need a lot more. All right.
All right. When you make a commitment, how do you follow through?
I set I set the goal, break it down, execute the plan. B, I run hard at it. Momentum is my method. C, I need someone beside me or I'm going to drift. D, I adapt as I go. Rigid plans break. I improvise and finish. I mean, it's like I keep being between A and B. Again, it depends. What's my commitment? I mean, I guess just like I don't know. I run hard at it. I probably run hard at it actually for like a commitment.
I'm gonna go with I adapt as I go. Rigid plans break. I optimize, and I always finish.
Oh wait, question 3. Where are you with God? Honest answer. A is on fire, hungry, growing, consistent in the word. B, steady, but I know there's a deeper level I haven't reached. C, I believe, but my faith has gone quiet lately. D, rebuilding. My faith took a hard hit and I'm fighting my way back. I mean, my faith hasn't gone quiet, and I do believe, I suppose, but very loosely, and certainly not in the same God that they're trying to pitch me in this thing. So I don't know. I'll put C. What's actually
B? What do you? I do know God, but there's always a deeper love for everyone. If you think you're at Nirvana, what are you still doing here?
I also just want to say, I'm like, it's not this God that you're pitching. I just know it's not. What's actually standing between you and the man God made you to be? A, discipline. I know what to do. I just don't do it. B, community. I'm spiritually isolated. C, doubt. Things I'm wrestling with that I haven't said out loud. D, shame. Past sin I haven't fully surrendered to God. I mean, I guess everyone can use more discipline, so I'll go with A. What do you actually need from a brother who has access to your life? A, call me out hard. No cushion, no excuses. B, check in constantly. Notice when I go quiet. C, be someone I can be fully honest with. No judgment. D, pray with me and speak truth and love when I need it.
I don't have anyone to pray with.
You can pray with me anytime, Mike.
My wife calls me out.
My woman. Oh, he slipped. He forgot what podcast he was on. Oh my God.
Yeah, I think honestly, my wife is A through C, so I'm gonna pick D because I don't want a gentleman anywhere else other than a prayer hand's length away.
I guess, be someone I can be fully honest with is always good. No judgment. That's for anyone in my life. A man you respect looks you in the eye and calls you out. What happens? A, I receive it immediately. That's iron sharpening iron. B, first reaction is defensive. I come around, but it takes a minute. C, how it's delivered matters. Delivered wrong, I shut down. D, I chase it. I can't grow without an honest mirror. I receive it if it's someone I respect, but I don't respect a lot of people, so it doesn't happen a lot.
Listen, if this was a true dangerous gentleman's quiz, there would be an option to punch him in the face.
Whoa. What season are you in right now? What? Okay. A, single, building the foundation. B, married, no kids yet. C, married with kids at home. Oh, Mike, you're in season 3. D, empty nester or later stage new mission. So I guess A, obviously for me. Where is the enemy hitting you hardest? Pick your primary front. A, physical discipline. My body isn't what it should be. B, sexual integrity, pornography or lust. C, faith. I'm inconsistent and I know it. D, marriage and family. I'm failing as a husband or father. E, purpose. I'm drifting and don't know what I'm building. Well, that's mine. F, isolation. I'm numb, angry, or just checked out. E, I'm not, it's not that I don't know what I'm building, but I do feel like I have to recheck in on my purpose. So thank you for asking. So I'll go with E.
I'm going to go sexual integrity.
Are you, you know what? I kind of thought you would. What does your brotherhood look like right now? A, I have solid men around me. I want to go deeper. B,
be gayer, dude. Be gayer.
Wow. And what's wrong with that?
I have solid men around me. I want them deeper.
Men need solid men around them. The go deeper was a little homoerotic. B, I have friendships, nothing that goes below the surface. Below the surface? Do you mean beyond the surface? Mostly alone. There's no real accountability in my life. D, I have a community. It just doesn't challenge me. I have solid men around me. I want to go deeper. Baby. Happy Pride. 1 hour a week with your accountability partner, non-negotiable. Can you commit? A, minimum. I treat this like a mission, not a suggestion. B, 30 to 60 minutes. I'll be there most weeks. C, my schedule is brutal, but I want to make this work. D, whatever it takes, I'm all in. I mean, schedule.
Minimum, dude. Minimum. Let's go for extra credit.
I'm going to say my schedule is brutal, but I want to make this work. Yeah. Wait. And then they're asking like how I want it. Phone calls. I want a real voice. Video calls. I want to see the man I'm talking to. Text. Honest. It's what works with my schedule. In person. I want to shake your hand and sit across from you. I mean, if we're really doing this, I want to shake your hand and sit across from you.
Yeah, I can't. You can't go deeper from a computer screen. I need you in my life to be going deeper, you solid man.
Wait, and now it says, how do we want to be matched? Where I think we signed up for a dating service, Mike. A, match me based on my answers. I want the most compatible brother. B, just get me a partner. I'm ready to do the work with whoever needs a brother. I mean, I'm ready to do the work. Oh my God. Now there's like a bunch of other questions. I can't go any further on this. Because these questions aren't fun. Now we're just there. Now there's a part where they just try to financially scam us.
Yeah, give me the quiz. Like, give me the answers for the quiz. Let me know if I'm.
I said nothing. I'm in
or whatever.
Okay, wait. Where should we send your profile? I'll do Without a Country and see what they send us. You can check the email if they send us anything during the show. Without a Country podcast@gmail.com. See my results. Oh wait, I got results when I put my email in.
Whoa. Okay. All right. I'll take it one more.
Wait, what pause was uncomfortably long? What was the problem?
Did you kill a guy?
Yeah, no, it was insane. That's why I think the wacko sent it to us. So this says, my profile, I got the Watchman. You see things other men miss. You're patient, calculated, and steady under pressure. But watching isn't the same as acting. And sometimes the most dangerous thing for a watchman is becoming comfortable on the wall. You need a partner who will call you off the wall and into the arena. They sniffed that I wouldn't kill, and they did not like it. It said, I'm a strong leader with it says my leadership. It says strong leader. I had almost the whole red bar. That's my strongest thing that under here. Faith, it says steady walk. That's like my lowest thing. Accountability, direct and honest, more than halfway up. Life stage, leading a family, and it said my commitment is consistent. What did you get, Mike?
The commander.
Oh,
I lead. That's not arrogance. It's assignment. But the man at the front of the line is also the most exposed. You need a brother who will hold you accountable to the standard you set for everyone else. Your greatest threat isn't failure. It's isolation.
Step into the community, Mike. Wow.
I'm good, dude. I'm so good. But I appreciate. Listen, that's all the bump that I need. If a dangerous gentleman thinks that I'm a commander,
wow,
he's got my vote.
Oh my God. There's a movement of the day. There's a podcast. There's a story. I'm going to have to spend a lot of time on here. Oh my God. Real estate powerhouse reveals the one thing men sacrifice too late. This is crazy. I need, more importantly than needing to speak to this guy, I need to speak to someone who's voting for this guy. What?
I think the move is really like speak to the people who've been grifted by this guy. You know what I mean? Like speak to the people who are like, I took the course because I wanted to be a dangerous gentleman.
Okay,
and like,
wait.
See what those guys got going on.
Wait. So Ryan N, he's become a dangerous gentleman, and he said, for years I felt like I was fighting alone. Joining the brotherhood gave me the squad I didn't know I needed. The daily accountability checks have completely rewired how I approached my morning routine. I'm finally consistent. Oh boy.
Hell yeah, he's pooping now.
Oh yeah, I know. I was like a lot of talk of brotherhood. Okay. Anyway, this was really interesting. I'm obsessed. But yeah, there's, it's Victor2026.com. There's like a 4-minute message that I don't even have time to watch. There's him photoshopped into some weird mountain thing. He said his little slogan is a leader to protect what matters most. Of course, there's a picture of his wife leaning into him. Victor Marx is a proven leader, devoted husband, father, and community servant who has dedicated his life to protecting families and strengthening communities. From overcoming personal adversity to founding organizations that bring hope and healing, Victor's journey reflects the resilience and grit that define Colorado. With decades of experience working on the front lines, supporting veterans, rescuing the vulnerable, and building programs that change lives, Victor understands the challenges hardworking Coloradans face. His leadership has always been guided by integrity, accountability, and an unwavering belief that government should serve the people, not special interests. I mean, all these things are the same. Can something jump out at me? As a candidate for governor, Victor Marx is committed to restoring trust in public office, defending Colorado values, and building a future where families can thrive. His vision is simple: a safer, stronger, and more united Colorado where opportunity, freedom, and community come first. And, he's talking about cost of living. Everyone's talking about the same things. It's just what they're going about it. I don't hate his website. It's like actually like pretty well put together. I wonder if Trump endorsed him. Who endorsed him? Not Lauren Boebert. Lee Allen Baker, an actress. I don't know who that is. I'm trying to look. Mark Ozgeist. Is that Dr. Oz? I heard Dr. Oz is no longer a doctor. His title was stripped from him.
His first name is Mehmet. I know that.
That's right. I knew that. Nick Freitas, Ted Nugent. I'm looking for people that I know. I don't know anyone else. Alfred, why are you crying? What's happening outside, buddy? All right. Well, that's enough time on Victor, but who has he killed? I would love to know. Really, really weird stuff. All right, let's move on to our main stories. We have three that are kind of vying for the title of top story today. This first one, Mike, I know you had answered Wacko Heather in the email, and we had talked about this briefly before. But we haven't talked about it in a while, which is the Karmelo Anthony, not the athlete, the accused killer, or convicted killer, I guess now, Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf case. So just to review, I'll explain this case or refresh you guys on this case for those of you who are unfamiliar, because I needed a refresher as well. So in April of 2025, at a high school track meet in Frisco, Texas, 17-year-old Austin Metcalf got into a confrontation with another 17-year-old student, Karmelo Anthony, who attended a different school. The dispute began when Anthony was under a team tent that wasn't assigned to his school during a weather delay. Witnesses said Metcalf and others told Anthony to leave. This part's from Wikipedia. Accounts differ somewhat on the exact sequence of events, but witnesses generally agreed that there was a verbal argument, physical contact occurred. Anthony pulled a knife and stabbed Metcalf once in the chest, and that Metcalf died from the wound. Karmelo Anthony was arrested at the scene and acknowledged that he had stabbed Metcalf, but claimed he acted in self-defense. And now this is from The Guardian. The legal argument is that the entire trial revolved around whether the stabbing was legally justified as self-defense. And I think that's important. I think a lot of people, when they're a lot of times when the public is discussing court cases, the number one thing that you need to know is what the actual thing they're arguing in court is. Because a lot of times I see people online discussing court cases and I'm like, that's not what the trial was about. So you just have to make sure you know specifically, the Patagonia trial, last week that we discussed, one of the things was a lot of people were discussing things that weren't even being discussed in the trial. That's not even what it was, what they were talking about. So the defense's argument is that Karmelo Anthony was physically smaller than Metcalf, that Metcalf initiated physical contact by pushing or grabbing him, and that Anthony feared serious bodily harm and reacted in a panic. The prosecution's argument is that whatever pushing occurred did not justify using deadly force. Anthony escalated a relatively minor confrontation into a fatal stabbing, and that the stabbing was not a reasonable act of self-defense. And this became very controversial because Karmelo Anthony, who was the stabber, is Black. Austin Metcalf, as you might assume from his name, was white. The case quickly became a flashpoint online, with activists and commentators on different sides framing it through racial and political lenses. Fundraisers, this is from Beaumont Enterprise, fundraisers for both families raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, and rumors circulated online about how the money was being used, many of which were later disputed or debunked. The final jury reportedly did not include any Black jurors, which became a point of criticism from Anthony's supporters. And I do wonder how that happened, because obviously, both lawyers have a say, on dismissing or accepting jurors. And that certainly seems very unfair. And then social media misinformation, numerous false claims, edited videos, fake documents, and misleading narratives circulated online, making it difficult for many people to understand what actually happened. And, a great way, depending on what side you're on and what kind of budget you have, to really control the narrative which we saw Johnny Depp really do very well online. Come at me. I'm ready. It's summer again. I'll fight about that till the day I fucking die. What was the outcome? So after a trial, which just happened this month, June 2026, a Texas jury rejected the self-defense claim and found Anthony guilty of murder. He was sentenced to 35 years in prison. Under Texas law, he may become eligible for parole after serving a portion of that sentence. The strongest counterpoint to both sides, one thing that gets lost in online discussions, is that neither extreme narrative fits the evidence particularly well. The claim that Anthony simply walked up and murdered a stranger for no reason ignores evidence that there was a confrontation and physical contact before the stabbing. The claim that this was clearly justified self-defense ignores the jury's conclusion that deadly force was not legally warranted under the circumstances. A shove or brief physical altercation does not automatically justify using a knife. The jury ultimately concluded that Anthony crossed the legal line from defending himself to committing murder, while the defense maintained that he acted out of fear during a rapidly escalating encounter. And what I would specifically like more information on that's not really being talked about a lot is, it says that, Anthony was under a tent that was supposed to be for another school. So that to me is saying that like I am kind of in enemy territory, and that, Austin's not just starting an altercation with me, that probably a lot of other kids have the potential to gang up on me. With this information as presented, I do not see a reason yet that I would have, whipped out a knife. And I also think that, we don't know where these, the neighborhoods or the upbringings that, people had in some neighborhoods, like, and this is like where people are going to get into like a conversation where it's going to show if they've ever been in a rough neighborhood in their entire lives or not. But like in some neighborhoods, you would be crazy not to be carrying a weapon. Like I have friends who are like, yeah, I am always carrying a weapon. I live in this neighborhood, and that's not the life that I live or that I grew up with, but I respect that it's what they grew up with and what they feel comfortable with. And, obviously, these people are from two different walks of life. And my main thing is like, okay, it says that Karmelo Anthony stepped under this like other tent because like of a weather issue. So like, there's all these claims that Austin, and I'm not saying that this means he deserved to die, but like, all these claims saying like Austin was like this great guy or whatever. It's like, how great of a guy can you be if there's a weather event happening and just another kid comes under your tent? You're going to be like, get the fuck out from my tent. Like, that's not neighbor. Like, that's what, like, that's how I'm reading it with, this very little bit of evidence.
What, but to be fair, right. If you were like, at a high school football game or a high school sporting event, and somebody from the rival team's cheering section came into your section, I think
because it was raining. No, I wouldn't.
Okay,
maybe I wouldn't.
Okay,
that's crazy.
I don't think it's crazy.
A fucking teenager. It's raining and he comes under my tent. I mean, like they're saying weather. I'm guessing like some kind of rain or something. They're because it's Texas, comes under. No, I'm gonna say, of course, come under. It's just a fucking game.
I don't know. We were pretty tribal in the high school I was in. I know if like a kid from New Rochelle came into our stands, we would just be jeering them. You know what I mean? I don't think it would.
You could poke fun at them. I'm not going to push him out. That's crazy. And it says, what evidence did the jury hear? There was video evidence. Jurors were shown surveillance footage from the stadium area, according to reporting. This is back from The Guardian. From the trial, the video generally supported that Karmelo Anthony was under a tent designated for another school's athletes, that Austin Metcalf approached him and told him to leave. Then some physical contact occurred, and then Anthony then produced a knife and stabbed Metcalf. The video apparently did not show the kind of prolonged beating or severe attack that would make a self-defense claim obvious. That's one reason prosecutors felt confident. Yeah, I'm just, my assessment is that Austin is from a bit of a cushier neighborhood, and Anthony's from a bit of a rougher neighborhood, and that Anthony is used to having to defend himself physically, where he's from. And therefore, when someone pushes him, it wasn't crazy to pull out a weapon to defend himself. And so this is kind of like two different people approaching an altercation from like two very different backgrounds. And I mean, that's just like how we approach everything in life. Like, you don't approach, like, I saw this quote recently, but it was, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but it was basically like, I think it was, I was reading about like mental health or something. This was like GWF related, but it's applicable here in that we have to remember that people approach life not just with what they can see in the moment, but they approach every situation in life with all their lived experiences behind them. So in every moment, a traffic stop, a breakup, accepting an award, you're not just accepting it in that moment. You're accepting it with all the lived experiences that you've gone through with a person behind you. So like, I do have empathy. Like this, to me, this story is like sad because it shows that Anthony, it shows that Karmelo Anthony has already lived like probably a difficult life. If this was his inclination to, in like a pushing and shoving thing, be like, I got to get a knife to defend myself. That makes me really feel for him. Like he's had a pretty rough life. And Austin Metcalf, on the other hand, probably hasn't had that he's had a hard life now, but it means like he is used to kind of like maybe getting what he wants. Maybe he's a little bit more privileged, and he like had no idea who he was starting a fight with. And the lived experiences of that person. To witness testimony, a major problem for the defense was that many student witnesses testified in ways that supported the prosecution. Well, of course they did, because they were at Austin's school and under the tent for Austin's school. So they're probably Austin's friends. So obviously they are going to testify in a way that supports the prosecution. Several witnesses said, this is from the New York Post and a couple other sources, but several witnesses said Anthony refused requests to leave the tent. Anthony was argumentative. Metcalf pushed or attempted to move him. The force used by Metcalf was not severe. They did not view the stabbing as self-defense. One witness reportedly described the stabbing as lethal force against non-lethal force, which is exactly the framing prosecutors wanted the jury to adopt. And I think, I haven't seen the video, but I probably do agree with that. But it doesn't mean that you can't have empathy for Karmelo. The knife, investigators recovered a blood-stained full-day knife near the scene. Testimony indicated Anthony had the knife with him at the track meet and used it during the confrontation. This became important because prosecutors argued that Anthony escalated a relatively ordinary teenage confrontation into a deadly encounter. Yeah, which happens like if you've had a tough start. Again, I'm not trying to defend him from a guy is dead.
What are we basing that on?
My lived experience growing up in a town that had two very different sections where people were living two very different standards of life.
I did too. There was never any stabbings at my high school. Like, I'm just trying to understand what the justification is.
What high school did you go to? Because there was definitely a ton of weapons and shit at my school.
No, there was plenty of weapons. I don't remember anyone being. I know for a fact no one was stabbed to death. If there was,
it wasn't. I agree. It wasn't stabbed to death. And I am on the prosecution side, but like, I don't think this is like pure black and white. Like I understand that pulling out a weapon. And also, you kind of just know this guy, Austin, was being a fucking asshole. Again,
I don't know that. I don't. For you to say that the person who got stabbed to death, we know for a fact he was an asshole, and this was at least a little bit justified, feels very privileged.
I'm not saying feels privileged. Austin's going to obviously be privileged. He's not.
He's dead. He's not that privileged.
I understand that, but I'm saying like I think that he had. Like no one's ever messed with him before.
Again, you're putting too much of your own bias.
Why are you so fucking obsessed with this story?
You've given I waited 3 times for you to justify and like sympathize and reframe the murder of a high school student.
I said obviously he's not doing that well. He's dead. I said he's obviously not doing that well. It's dead. He's dead. But this is the same as like when you go to Columbine High School and you go, yeah, those people didn't deserve to be dead. But the way that they talked about the people who gunned them down, they were shitty to them for years. Does that mean that they should all be dead? No. But did I see maybe why they are dead? Yeah, 100%. And even I visited the Columbine Memorial, and even in the memorial, the things that they said about these people, like just not like after they were dead, but I'm like, it's very obvious that they were treating them like shit the entire time. And now they're dead. Again, not defending this, but so then why is this an interesting story if this is so cut and dry? Why does everyone want to talk about this story if it's so cut and dry?
I'm not saying that it's quote unquote cut and dry. I'm just saying for to put the bias that like this is a privileged person who's never heard no in their life. You knew nothing about this kid until he got stabbed to death.
And that's why I introduced it saying I am looking at it with the information I have. This is my assessment. That is what I said.
Fair enough.
That's the point of the show. People tune into the show to hear my fucking opinion on it, not to hear what we think happened. Like, yeah, I mean, or to hear what we think happened. Like, yeah, that I'm looking at the things and piecing together a story the same as anyone does when they watch a Netflix documentary about true crime. I'm looking at this as if I am a true crime person who grew up in a really diverse school and has lived in a lot of places where there was a lot of racial tension. I went to a fucking high school where we had a black cafeteria and a white cafeteria. This is a world wild. I actually fucking know pretty fucking well.
School, Alabama in the 60s?
No, it wasn't like it had a signed black cafeteria, but all the kids referred to it as such, and even some of the teachers, if we're being honest. And you went into one and there was no white people there, and you went into one and there was no people of color there. That's for sure. So shit like this would go down a lot. And I also know from a lot of comics, I was actually just having a conversation. I'm not going to name who this is, but like it's a comic. He lives in a rougher area of New York City, and he was putting together his bag and a fucking nightstick fell on the floor. And I was like, oh, what's that? Like, I just didn't see it clearly. And he was like, oh, that's my nightstick. And I was like, oh, do you always carry a nightstick with you? And he's like, hell yeah, I live here. I always carry a nightstick with me. And this is like a younger black man. And I wasn't like, oh no, this is a guy who's out trying to nightstick people. I was like, damn, like obviously things happened in this comic's life that mean he feels like he has to carry a nightstick around, which means he's obviously been in physical danger multiple times in his life. That's the information that it gave me. And again, like, it's just like, I just see no reason why, if there's a weather issue happening, why we had to escalate and tell this kid to leave anyway. It does feel like they didn't want like this like black kid from the wrong side of the tracks under their tent. Like, I just don't see any reason to kick a kid out for a weather reason, unless if he came in with bad energy, but it seems like he only started being argumentative when he was asked to leave, which I would be argumentative too if they were like, go stand in the rain. Like, there's just no reason to, like, you know, there's still sportsmanship. The medical evidence says the medical examiner testified that the stab wound penetrated Metcalf's chest and proved fatal. Jurors also saw autopsy photographs and heard emotional testimony about Metcalf's final moments. Yeah, no, I'm sure getting stabbed fucking sucks. Those kinds of exhibits can be powerful because they force jurors to confront the consequences of the defendant's actions rather than focusing solely on the argument that preceded them. Why was the self-defense claim difficult? Again, back to the Guardian. Under Texas law, self-defense isn't simply someone touched me so I can use a weapon. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't see any case for this being for what happened, meaning that he could pull out a knife. Like, even if he flashed a knife, I could see this being okay, but you can't just fucking stab someone. That's crazy. The defense argued that Karmelo Anthony was smaller than Metcalf, that Metcalf initiated physical contact, that Anthony feared being attacked, which I agree. I'm sure he did. Offense unfolded in seconds. Anthony, you know, and these are young boys who, like, obviously are not really good at de-escalating, but so are adult men who work for the NYPD. The prosecution argued a push is not deadly force. Agree with that. Metcalf was unarmed. Agree with that. I'm just taking that at face value. That Anthony introduced the knife into the confrontation. That seems pretty clear. And that the response was grossly disproportionate to the threat. I mean, I think I don't know, grossly disproportionate, but it was certainly disproportionate. Again, I could see like wielding a knife, but not going straight for a stab. Because usually, like, if you have a weapon and the other person doesn't, you would take out the weapon first, show it to them, and that would hopefully make them back off. The proportionality issue is where many self-defense cases are won or lost. And then, and then going back into, stabbing or not stabbing, Jasmine Crockett, made a statement on it that I think is pretty interesting. That was getting people all up in arms in your favorite media outlet, the New York Post today. And the headline is Jasmine Crockett suggests she also would have stabbed Austin Metcalf in stunning defense of Carmelo Anthony. So there you go. You're New York Post. And you are aligned. And I mean, I don't know that I'm not aligned with Jasmine Crockett, but somewhere in the middle. Lame duck Representative Jasmine Crockett. It is crazy how the mighty have fallen. Suggested during an Unhinged episode podcast that she too would have stabbed track star Austin Metcalf. And another thing, and some of my bias lies in I've seen this story so many times, usually in sexual assault cases where it's like white poster boy. And again, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't look at each case individually. And I certainly would if I'm a juror, but I'm not a juror. I'm a fucking podcaster. Is that, we see, white poster boy, athlete, star of the show, he dies or something bad happens to him, and other person is either woman, person of color, and everyone just rallies around the poster boy. Like that happens a lot in court and in stories in America still. After Carmelo Anthony was convicted of first-degree murder in the racially charged case. And it's like, no need to get mad. Carmelo Anthony's in jail for fucking 35 years. And no matter what we say or don't say, Austin Metcalf is dead. And he shouldn't be dead, obviously. On Tuesday's episode of Clock It with Crockett, the failed Senate candidate.
Yuck.
Yuck, but also it's like, let us know how you really feel, New York Post. The failed
Clock It with Crockett is rough, dude.
All of these political podcasts are fucking rough. All these ones that these elected officials have, like, I don't know how, if you're doing a good job representing the country, you have time to podcast. Like, it takes a lot of time to put together podcasts, and you don't really have fucking time if you're an elected official, or you shouldn't if you're doing your job. On Tuesday's episode of Clock It with Crockett, the failed Senate candidate let loose a torrent of falsehoods to paint a picture of the brutal slaying of 17-year-old Metcalf that had virtually no basis in reality. The cavalcade of inaccuracies started with Crockett downplaying the size of the semi-serrated 5-inch pocket knife Anthony was convicted of plunging into Metcalf's chest during a dispute at a track meet at Memorial High School and in Frisco, Texas last April. Wait a minute. It was this, she said, holding her thumb and forefinger about an inch apart to demonstrate the size of the murder weapon. I mean, I don't think that's an argument that really, if it's big enough to kill someone, it's big enough to kill someone. Like, why are we talking about how big the knife was? Was it a switch? I don't know what he had, Crockett said, inadvertently telegraphing her flimsy grasp of the facts of the case that has roiled her home state for more than a year. One of her guests claimed the knife was a multi-tool akin to a Swiss Army knife. Yeah, with the little scissors and everything and whatever. So it was small, Crockett said, furrowing her brow and squinting her eyes in disbelief. Well, I would argue the size of it alone, you wouldn't even think it's a deadly weapon. Pictures of the knife have not been released, but it was described as having one-handed opening and a semi-serrated blade with a sharp point. Anthony's knife penetrated Metcalf's sternum and entered his heart, leaving a gaping 2-inch stab wound and causing the teenager to bleed to death. Crockett continued, and I would also argue, if I was on the prosecution, it's like, if you want to stab someone in a way that will just get them away from you, you don't stab them right directly in the chest. You stab them in even just any other place, not through the fucking heart, Crockett continued, flagrantly embellishing every single detail of the confrontation that led to the deadly stabbing. If a 300-pound man is beating me, on top of me and beating me down, I'm not limited to fists, she said, seemingly implying she too would have stabbed the high school athlete. Okay, so that's also a stretch. Like the New York Post is making a stretch. Like they're making it seem like Jasmine was like, yeah, I would have stabbed him too. No, she said, I'm not limited to fists. She's saying she would have gotten physical. She's not saying that she would have stabbed him. Metcalf was 6 feet and 200 pounds, a far cry from her claim about the victim's stature. Anthony was also a high school football standout and was listed as 5 feet 11 and 162 pounds. Her choice of words also falsely portrayed Anthony as the victim and Metcalf as the aggressor. In fact, Metcalf was merely attempting to remove an interloper from the track team's tent at the event, according to witness Eddie Parra, 18. Parra testified that when confronted, Anthony immediately got aggressive, daring Metcalf to touch me and warning that you're going to have to move me, while putting his hand inside his bag to indicate he had a weapon, which I don't dispute, obviously, if it escalated to getting stabbed this quickly. But then if I was Metcalf, I would have probably stopped talking to this guy or moved away. According to witnesses, Metcalf shoved Anthony, who then pulled out the knife and stabbed him in the chest in what Collin County DA Bill Worski called a sneak attack. Contrary to Crockett's fact-free assertions, there was no beating. Metcalf was never on top of Anthony, and Metcalf weighed nowhere near the formidable 300 pounds the Congresswoman alleged. This is just turning it, they just wanted to do a piece on why Jasmine Crockett sucks. X users flooded posts sharing clips of Crockett's podcast with comments pointing out her misstatements of even the simplest facts in the case. Yeah, I mean, if I was a congressperson, I probably wouldn't do that podcast. Why does it matter what he used to kill him? A rope isn't a deadly weapon until it's used to strangle someone. Like, how stupid can you be? One X user asked incredulously. Pretty sure Metcalf is dead, so it sounds like a deadly weapon to me. Another poster chimed in. Okay, well, now we're getting into people just, like repurposing like actual things that have a legal definition. Defined. So the actual legal definition of a deadly weapon is any firearm, device, instrument, or substance that is inherently designed or actively used in a manner capable of causing death or serious bodily injury. So it is pretty kind of like amorphous, I would say. But there are things that are adapted weapons, which is kind of what that X user is referencing, right? So an adapted weapon is like, think of the board game Clue, right? A candlestick holder isn't an inherently deadly weapon, but it is an adapted weapon. It's an everyday object that is altered to become legal. That also includes things like sharpening a toothbrush if you're doing like a prison, style killing. And then we have things like inherently deadly weapons that are specifically designed and made to inflict death or severe harm, such as firearms, knives, brass knuckles, and explosives. Just so everyone has like a clear definition of what that means. Let's see. So she has twisted the story into something that did not happen. She's an absolute imbecile. She should have at least Googled what happened before she opened her dumb mouth. Okay, so obviously now it's just kidding. Calling a woman a dumb bitch. Nothing that everyone loves more on X than that. Crockett, an attorney, has previously made gaffes indicating. Oh yeah, I forgot she's a fucking attorney. She should really. What kind of law does she practice? Jasmine Crockett, what type of law? Because I mean, people just say lawyer, and it's pretty like that. Every lawyer doesn't know about every kind of law. She's public defender. So she's not, but she.
Oh, this seems like exactly the type of case you would get.
No. Yes. Defender. Yeah. Criminal defense. And then she went into civil rights, which is kind of where she took her political turn, it seemed like. And then she did like a personal injury, which let's not even talk about that because that's not. But her current system, but yeah. So back in the start of her career, it seems like she should have the knowledge to properly discuss this. But again, obviously, like the New York Post has an angle here, and they're just pulling out the quotes that they don't like that to make her look stupid. Crockett, an attorney, has previously made gaffes indicating a twisted understanding of the criminal justice system, including the infamously ponderous statement, just because someone has committed a crime, it doesn't make them a criminal, on Jonathan Van Ness's Getting Better podcast, for which she was widely ridiculed. Okay, that's it. I mean, I think what she was trying to say in that statement was like criminal being like someone who is a career criminal, and that like many of us in the public have committed at least one crime, whether it was on purpose or by accident. That doesn't make us a criminal. I think that's what she was trying to say. I can see why the internet would have ran wild with that, though. A Collin County jury composed of white, Asian, and Hispanic members deliberated for about 3 hours Tuesday before finding Anthony, now 19, guilty of first-degree murder. First degree, I mean, again, they're always so willy-nilly with the first-degree murder. Like, how did they prove that this was premeditated? I would buy second-degree murder. But first degree? Like, that's
well, when
that's Mackenzie Shirilla all over again. But premeditated, no. Premeditated has to be like not in the heat of anger in the moment. First degree murder. Like, I see what you're saying. Like, yes, in that moment, I could believe that his intention was to kill. But
no, that's manslaughter. I'm saying it's premeditated in the sense that he reached into his bag, like making the threatening motion, like I have a weapon, and then still stood by, like I'm standing my ground. You will have to move me, and making it clear I have every intention of stabbing you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but the legal elements that you'll have to prove for first degree murder are premeditation, the killer planned or thought about the murder before doing it, deliberation, the act was carried out calmly and with a clear mind. And that's where I would really push back, because this is obviously like they were in a situation that was escalating. Usually, like, this to me reminds me of like when people get killed in a bar fight, right? Very rarely in a bar fight situation are you going to have someone being convicted. If someone dies, are you going to be getting someone convicted of first degree murder?
Right.
I just don't. Again, I'm continuously wow. There's been a couple cases recently where I'm like, I'm not saying that I think that this person should have been convicted. I just don't know how they're getting first degree murder. That's what I'm questioning.
Right.
Because for second degree murder, you have to. So you're doing intent to kill, a crime of passion, or impulsive killing, where the attacker intended to kill but did not plan in advance. Like, to me, it's clear second degree murder. Intent to do serious harm, extreme recklessness. The attacker acted with an abandoned and malignant heart, showing extreme indifference to human life. I would agree with all this, because it's like about your state of mind, right? And then, I mean, manslaughter is kind of just like when you kill someone but you really didn't mean to, like hitting them with your car accidentally. Unlawful killing of human being without malice aforethought. It differs from murder in that it requires a lesser degree of criminal culpability. But voluntary manslaughter can also be a crime of passion. And that's when you intentionally kill another person, but the act is provoked by extreme emotional disturbance. And I know why I would still say you can go for second degree murder, because I would argue that there wasn't enough, that Austin Metcalf didn't provoke him enough for it to go down to voluntary manslaughter. But then involuntary manslaughter, that's like, you know, when you're speeding and you kill someone with your car or something like that, I'm pretty sure. Okay. I mean, again, I don't know if if anyone in law, Marguerite, if you want to explain to me why you think this was able to go through for first degree murder, you let me know. I see, to me, it seems like clear second degree, but okay, let's see. He was sentenced to 35 years, which we already know. And Crockett did not respond to a request for comment from the post, nor should she have. But again, it's just been so wild to watch her career go from like true like hero of the internet to like hated. All right, moving on to our next main story, the UFC cage fight for diplomacy. We knew it was coming. We knew we were going to have cage fights on the lawn. We knew this was coming. This is from the New York Post. Again, big day for the New York Post. Some of these articles I had to pull from the New York Post because they were the only mainstream places really doing articles about them. This says Rubio and UFC will sign deal to use cage fights for diplomacy. Diplomats will sign at least one memorandum of understanding this week. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and UFC CEO Dana White have reached an agreement to use cage fights for diplomacy, the State Department said Monday, as Iran peace talks remain in flux. The MOU was announced as President Trump prepares to host an iconic mixed martial arts match Sunday on the White House lawn. Rubio and White will sign the agreement Thursday afternoon at the State Department ahead of the 7-fight event at the White House. The MOU signing will mark a new public-private partnership to enhance sports diplomacy initiatives and collaborate on the global growth of mixed martial arts, the department said in a press release. As an American founded organization, the UFC has grown into a major global sports platform reflecting U.S. leadership in modern combat sports promotion, athletic performance standards, and international event production, the statement said. Its events are broadcast worldwide and contribute to the United States' broader cultural and sports influence through professional competition and athlete development. It's unclear what exactly the MOU will entail. The term memorandum of understanding has dominated international headlines for weeks due to the negotiations between the U.S. and Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz as a step toward ending the more than 3-month war. The MOU has been subject to continued wrangling, including over the sanctions relief and the final status of Iran's nuclear program. The State Department's eagerness to use UFC for bridge building purposes reflects the 33-year-old organization's international following. 6 of the 14 fighters who will appear at the White House are foreign, including Ilia Topuria of Georgia, who will face off against American Justin. Do you know who this is?
Yeah, it's Ilia Topuria and Justin Gaethje.
Okay. A frequent fan favorite for the lightweight title. Alex Pereira of Brazil will fight Cyril Gane of France.
Cyril Gane.
Okay. You can just say all the names. For the heavyweight interim title, White, a friend of Trump's, has hosted the president at other fights and has relished the high-stakes show with the executive mansion as a backdrop. The UFC has erected a massive steel structure to illuminate an improvised octagon fight ring just outside the White House's southern exit. The unusual event will take place Sunday on Trump's 80th birthday. Oh, that's right. It's Gemini season, though it officially is kicking off celebrations of the country's 250th anniversary ahead of July 4th. And as an insider in the UFC, Mike, what are your thoughts? What's the conversation around this? I figured you would know. Is it this weekend?
Yeah.
It's
Sunday.
You have a ticket?
Yeah.
You're going with someone from UFC?
No. It's some guys who I did their podcast. They submitted for tickets just in the lottery and won them, and they were like, "Yeah, we're from Canada. We're not flying down for that. Do you guys want these tickets?" So, me and the other producer for Believe You Me are going. Brian McKay. I
need a little boots on the ground with other country content. Make a little video footage. We'll slap it up.
I could do something. What really frustrates me about this is Trump, Dana White came out, I want to say it was like last year or 18 months ago, and was like complaining and bitching about people who were like getting handouts from the government, businesses that took PPP loans, like all this other stuff, right? Like quote unquote government handouts, like shut up, just go work. Meanwhile, this is a guy who has taken like $100 million in site fees from the Tourism Board of Perth, Australia, to bring them a card once a year or twice a year for a period of 5 to 6 years. He has a similar deal with the Tourism Board in New Jersey. He has a similar deal with Visit Salt Lake City, the Utah Tourism Board. If you go on down the list, like he has taken site fees from so many different local and federal governments to bring his dog and pony show to a new territory, all the while not paying out the fighters and going on podcasts and talking about how people just need to work harder. So it's like, I don't know, man, it's very frustrating to me to hear from Trump for months and months. Oh, the UFC is paying for all this, right? This card that where I'm going to have gladiators and come fight for me on my 80th birthday, like the goddamn Julius Caesar I am. It's all being paid for by the UFC, right? Like the UFC, Dana White's footing the bill for this. The American taxpayer is not going to touch a penny from our coffers for this massive event.
Right.
However, Dana White did just sign a 7-fight deal to bring, fight diplomacy across the world. So it's like, yeah, we're going to do a show probably in Saudi Arabia where instead of Riyadh season paying for it, it's going to be the United States government paying the UFC $10 or $20 million to go bring a show there. And it's like every single dollar that was spent for this UFC Freedom 250 card, which is really just Trump's birthday, is going to be paid back to the UFC tenfold by the American taxpayer, which is like, it's against it's the antithesis of everything Trump stands for and everything Dana White claims to stand for.
Well, I would say it's also against everything that Trump claims to stand for, too. We knew that he didn't actually stand for these things. We knew that he's interested in making money for himself and for his friends and for, most importantly, retaliating against his haters.
No,
that's what term 2 is about, retaliating against my haters and making my friends money.
I knew there was some retaliating against haters. I thought we were staunchly anti-war, and it's like,
I know you're very upset about that.
Can't even get that one right. You had one job, no new wars.
Is there anything that you think that Trump has done well in this term 2?
So, like, I'd like to point to the limiting of institutional investment into single family homes. But when you dig a little deeper, even that is just fucking lip service.
And even that, when you're the president, I mean, that sounds like just like describing that to get like that nuance seems like something like a mayor should be doing. Like I know it's a big thing. But it's
literally like if you look at the numbers, right? BlackRock can go through, buy a house for $300,000, sell it for themselves for $700,000.
I know. Yeah.
Right now, you've just increased the median home value of that neighborhood and priced out everyone in my generation from ever buying a home. Right. So it's like that does need to be handled at the federal level. However, the way that Trump set it up was like, yeah, you can, as a retail investor, quote unquote retail investor, buy up to like 30 or 35 single family homes. And then you do the math and it's like, okay, how much does it cost to file as a corporation in the state of Delaware? Right. Like,
sure.
All right. So buying more than 30 houses just brought a premium of an extra, $500? Okay. When you, in the grand scheme of things, when you're falsely inflating a housing market, $500 is it's a less than a speeding ticket.
Sure.
So no, I say all that to say there's at this point absolutely nothing that he's done in his presidency that I've been happy with. Like, I mean, I'm really trying. Well, you don't have to take your shoes off at the airport anymore. That was good. That was.
I didn't know that was him.
No, that was Ice Barbie, Kristi Noem. That was like her first day in the office was like, oh, I'm the head of the TSA now. Why am I taking my shoes off at the airport? Let's look into this.
So it's funny. I thought that like, because you know how sometimes TSA says you do and sometimes you don't. And like, I haven't flown a ton in his second term because I haven't been on tour for this term yet. So I just thought it was like, I've just been there on a couple of occasions where it was a no shoes off day. I didn't even realize.
No,
my pre-check expired. So I'm just using Clear.
Ooh, that's the lasting impression of Trump 2.0 is shoes on, rights off.
Whoa. All right. And the last main story for today, we're going to get, this is from NPR. Again, there's a lot of law today. It's the Supreme Court is in its final stretch this term. Here are the major cases left. So basically, before they go on summer vacation, these are the things that we still need to decide. This is by Nina Totenberg from June 9th. The U.S. Supreme Court is heading into its crunch time, the part of the year when the justices are racing to finish decisions and dissents in the cases that remain undecided. There are 23 cases left out of the 58 that have been argued. 2 major cases have already been decided. One essentially gutted what remains of the landmark 1965 Voting Rights Act, which we talked about at length on this show, prompting Republicans in a number of southern states to redraw congressional maps to diminish or eliminate majority Black districts that have elected Black members of Congress. And the second major case that has been decided struck down President Trump's tariff program because the court said Congress had not authorized it and Trump exceeded his authority in doing it on his own. All right. Many of the most difficult and controversial cases, however, remain to be decided in the coming weeks, with the justices aiming to conclude their work by the end of June or early July. The Supreme Court is next expected to release decisions on Thursday, June 11th. And I get very worried when they leave a lot, because to me, that's really pointing out we're about to hit you with a lot of bad news quick. And these are the things that are left. They're big things. So birthright citizenship, this is Trump v. Barbara. Trump has long maintained that the Constitution does not guarantee birthright citizenship for babies born on U.S. soil. And on the first day of
his own son, by the way, is under that.
Where was he born?
He was born in America, but he came out of a Russian immigrant, so he does not immediately qualify for birthright citizenship according to this new law.
I see what you're saying. And on the first day of his second term in office, he signed an executive order barring citizenship for children born in the U.S. if parents entered the country illegally, or if the parents are living and working in the U.S. legally with temporary visas. But I mean, did she? I don't think she entered illegally, did she? The executive order never went into effect because every lower court judge to review it concluded, in the words of one, that the order was blatantly unconstitutional. Specifically, the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, enacted after the Civil War, says that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. While almost all scholars interpret that language broadly and as applying to all babies born in the U.S., Trump himself maintains that it applies only to the children of former slaves and definitely not to the children of those in the U.S. illegally or the children of non-citizens living here legally. And then trans bans in sports, of course. This is Little v. Hecox in West Virginia v. BPJ. At issue are laws recently enacted in about half the states that ban trans girls and women from participating in women's sports at publicly funded schools. Before the court are two cases, one involving varsity competition at colleges and universities, and the other involving sports in high schools. Supporters of the bans say the laws are needed to prevent athletes whose assigned sex at birth was male from having an unfair advantage in women's sports. Opponents of the bans say they discriminate based on sex in violation of both federal law and the Constitution's guarantee to equal protection of the law. And for athletes at every level, the issue is deeply personal, with tennis greats Billie Jean King and Martina Navratilova on opposing sides, along with hundreds of other athletes. Next thing is, will independent government agencies remain independent? Trump v. Slaughter. Trump's involved in a lot of these. Donald Trump is not the first president to try to fire the heads of independent agencies. President Franklin D. Roosevelt tried to fire one of the 5 Federal Trade commissioners then serving in office. But in 1935, the Supreme Court ruled unanimously against the president. The court declared that under the federal law, commissioners could only be fired for cause, meaning inefficiency in office, neglect of duty, or malfeasance. How do you always say? I always say that word wrong.
Malfeasance.
Malfeasance. Yeah, I'm always like, what the? I always want to just say Maleficent, and I'm like, that's a Disney character. Every Supreme Court since then has reaffirmed that decision. If the conservative supermajority sides with Trump, he, as well as future presidents, will be able to fire at will agency leaders in all or almost all previously independent agencies. That's going to be a fucking nightmare. Ironically, the commissioner in the crosshairs this time was also a member of the Federal Trade Commission. Trump appointed Rebecca Slaughter to the FTC in his first term and fired her in his second. The Supreme Court allowed the firing to go through on a temporary basis over staunch dissent from the court's 3 liberal justices. But the odds are that the court's 6 conservative justices will rule definitively in Trump's favor, the result being that independent agencies will no longer be independent. That's like a big one, which is not like, it's not as exciting to talk about, but I feel like that one's like that's a big one. So does that mean that he can fire members of the Federal Reserve Board? And that brings us to another case, Trump v. Cook. What's the theme here? And again, it's very interesting. As I already have kind of assessed at the top of this, it's like, I feel like they're saving a lot to hit us with a lot of bad news at once. And now, especially looking at all of these, so many of these involve Trump. They're going to be like, in Trump's favor, in Trump's favor, in Trump's favor. And then they're going to be like, bye, have a great summer. Trump threatened to fire the head of the Fed, Jerome Powell, and tried to fire Lisa Cook, the first Black woman to serve on the Fed board. But the Supreme Court so far has refused to allow her removal. Cook's case, now awaiting decision by the court, has prompted considerable anxiety among economists, business leaders, and others. When the Slaughter case was argued in December, some of the conservative justices seemed to suggest that the Fed had more protections than other agencies. Just how the court will thread that needle remains to be seen. Mail-in ballots, Watson v. Republican National Committee. By law, 29 states count at least some ballots that arrive after Election Day, including ballots from overseas and from members of the military, as long as they are postmarked on or before Election Day. In the case before the court, Mississippi defends late arriving ballots, noting that the Constitution gives states the right to run their own elections. That said, the Trump administration and the Republican Party take the opposite position. They maintain that under federal law, the election has to happen on Election Day, and anything that happens after that is not part of the election. That's an interesting one. And I mean, also look at the language here. By law, 29 states count at least some ballots that arrive after Election Day. That's the thing. I mean, I feel like it has to be like a little bit more specific that, like I guess there are criteria state by state, and that's why this is highlighted. Like each state has a different thing, like 3 days after, 10 days after. It does seem like, 1 or 2 days after, maybe you would, because it's the same as like, you're allowed to hand in your rent, up to 10 days late, but you can't get wild about it. Temporary protected status for eligible migrants. This is Mullen v. Doe and Trump v. Miote. Congress enacted the temporary protected status law in 1990 to allow fully vetted and eligible migrants to live and work legally in the U.S. if they cannot return safely to their countries because of natural disasters, armed conflicts, and other extraordinary conditions. Since the law was enacted 36 years ago, every president, Republican and Democrat, has embraced it except Trump. In his first term, he tried and failed to kill off TPS, but in the 16 months since he returned to office, he may well be more successful. Currently, there are 17 countries whose migrants have been designated with TPS status, and so far, Trump is seeking to eliminate 13 of those countries from the TPS list. The two test cases came before the Supreme Court involve migrants from Haiti and Syria. The Haitians, more than 300,000 of them, have been living legally in the U.S. since a devastating earthquake in 2010, followed by a deadly cholera epidemic, domestic terrorism, including widespread kidnapping and killings by marauding gangs, and political assassinations that have continued to this day. The Syrians are a much smaller group of roughly 3,800. The Trump administration argues that decisions about TPS are entirely up to the president and that the courts have no power to review those decisions. If the court agrees, that could well lead to mass deportations. Geofencing. Yes.
Oh, the Syrians is particularly messed up because it's like you made Syria fall.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were the ones, like a joint NATO-Israeli task force, sure. But like realistically, Syria does not fall without the go-ahead of Donald Trump. So how's he just leaving the Syrians out to like be like, no, they don't get protected status, despite the fact that my actions made them homeless.
I mean, the same as we're leaving the Palestine out to dry. I mean,
but it's like you expect that.
Well, just because you expect, like we are not in America. We often don't clean up our messes.
Yeah, that's
not new. Good. I mean, it's I agree, it's fucked up. Is it new? Nah, but it's. I mean, yeah, no, it's fucked up. Geofencing. This is another one we're waiting for. A new tool for law enforcement. This is Chatry v. US. Geofencing entails drawing a virtual geographical fence around an area where a crime was committed. In this case, the area within the geofence line included not just a bank where a robbery took place, but also a church and a senior citizen's home. The government sought a warrant that required Google to search its data and turn over any of the names of users who were within the geofence line at the time of the crime. Essentially, the question for the justices is whether this new technique is ingenious, Orwellian, or both. This is very interesting. The government contends that because people are free not to give their location data to their tech provider, the data that the tech company does have must be turned over to police pursuant to a warrant. Countering that argument, opponents of geofencing contend that because the warrant directs the tech company to search millions of users' location history, millions of people were subjected to a search despite never having done anything suspicious. That's a difficult one because like you want to solve crimes, but it's like at what point are they just like completely not respecting any privacy whatsoever?
Yeah, I mean, we've also seen geofencing already be used to target evangelical Christians by Israel as like their people are like leaving church. This is a real thing.
All roads lead back to Israel.
Most, if we're being honest. But ultimately, the point I'm making is like it's. There are use cases beyond just what this article is talking about.
Mm-hmm. I believe you. Just I want you to do a podcast called "All Roads Lead to Israel."
Oh. I mean, it's got a nice ring to it.
I think you would nail it. It's better than Clock It with Crockett.
Thank you.
What rhymes with Israel is a hard one to rhyme. I don't know.
Well, getting miserable in Israel.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I was like, we'll sit on it. We'll think of something good. And the last one is guns. This is Wilford v. Lopez and U.S. versus v. Hamani. In most states, gun owners can bring firearms onto private property unless the property owner tells them otherwise. But 5 states, Hawaii, California, Maryland, New York, and New Jersey, have passed laws that require gun owners to get permission in advance. The question facing the justices is whether that requirement for advance permission violates the Second Amendment right to bear arms. In a second case, the question is whether a federal law that makes it a felony for drug users to possess a gun violates the Second Amendment. The law is akin to one that resulted in the prosecution and conviction of Hunter Biden. Biden was convicted of the gun law in this case, along with 2 other charges in connection with his purchasing a firearm in 2018. In 2022, the court issued a broad ruling declaring that gun regulations henceforth would be deemed unconstitutional if they had no analog to a similar gun regulation that existed at the founding. Lower courts have found the decision confusing and difficult to administer, and they have unsubtly complained about the lack of guidance on gun issues from the Supreme Court. The 2 gun cases this term may answer at least some of these questions. I mean, they're really leaving us on the edge of our seats. And I feel like, possibly like they want to hit us with a lot of bad news at once. And I think they also want to kind of like make these decisions and then not have to face any of the blowback because they can be like, in their Hamptons home or wherever Supreme Court justices vacation. Getting real about Israel. Love is a Battlefield is recommending. Yeah, I was like a getting real kind of thing. Get real, Israel. I don't know. We could think of something. But yeah, that'll be very interesting to see what the decisions are in all of those. And then just real quick before we leave today, obviously the results have come in from the mayoral race in Los Angeles, and Nithya Raman is moving forward. That took so long to count. And it was crazy because a lot of news outlets were announcing that Spencer Pratt was moving on. And, I would have thought that if you're announcing on a Los Angeles mayoral race, you have the numbers that are required for someone to move through, and you would have done those calculations before announcing that. But apparently you aren't.
Is he not moving on?
No, only the 2 top contenders. So Karen Bass had already locked in like days ago. But so number one, last week I talked about this. My stance that Nithya Raman's campaign was weak doesn't change. Nothing about that changes. I I'm glad that she is moving through, but she really, really, really needs to change a lot of things about this campaign and move with a sense of urgency and stop spending so much time on podcasts with Los Angeles celebrities, and especially like they're much lower level than anyone Spencer Pratt has had access to. So maybe she was trying to do the celebrity angle to kind of cancel out Spencer Pratt. But I'm like, there's one thing that leads to votes, especially in a mayoral race, and that is feet on the ground. She needs to be pumping all her money, and she has a lot of money. She needs to be pumping or she doesn't have a lot of money. She has considerably less money than Karen Bass, I do have to point out, but she needs to put her money into field. And also, if you are in Los Angeles, the best way that you can help a campaign is to help canvas. So ring doorbells, much more effective than calling, although calling I think would be second best. But like in this digital world, a lot of people don't answer their phone and just delete messages. But if you are able to go out and spend a couple hours knocking on doors, that is the best contribution of your time to a political candidate, outside of a financial contribution, of course. Like that is chef's kiss. And New York Post even put out an article that said the problem with Nithya Raman's campaign perfectly captured in election night party photos. And, a lot of the commentary is that it was very white and like a lot of like celebs. It says, it's funny because like some of the complaints that I had, specifically like a specific podcast that I was referencing, the fucking comedian is named in here. But it says, comedian Adam Conover was among the supporters seen dancing at the party, where the mood appeared more like a progressive happy hour than a political earthquake. That was exactly the problem, according to Los Angeles Times columnist Gustavo Arellano, who wrote that the scene at the function showed why Raman's chances of becoming the city's next mayor were slim from the start. The gathering felt like a happy hour at a Silver Lake bar. And if you're not familiar with Los Angeles, Silver Lake is giving like hipster, far whiter than the city overall, with few Latinos. And obviously, if you're running for mayor in Los Angeles, you're going to really need to speak to both your Latino and your Asian constituents. Those are two groups that really are heavily represented in Los Angeles, or need to be by their elected officials. He added that Raman's remarks to the packed room amounted to a grab bag of platitudes mixed with broadside against MAGA, a message he dismissed as a political nothing in LA politics. The criticism cut to the heart of Raman's failed pitch. Her campaign appeared aimed at national progressive anxieties rather than the daily frustrations consuming Los Angeles voters over homelessness, crime, affordability, and city hall dysfunction. And while I really agree with the New York Post, and obviously like they love drinking the haterade and serving the haterade, this is a great criticism of municipal politics as a whole, and something that I was trying to talk about a lot during the mayoral race here. Zoran did a great job of really focusing, for the most part. Again, we got into like a little Israel-Palestine talk, which is like, I knew that was going to, take a big stance in the mayor's race in New York. But what you really need to do, you need to talk to the people who are voting for you about the everyday needs. That's what municipal politics is. It's not these big picture issues. It's the everyday problems that families and individuals in a place are facing. And if you are not talking about that, you're missing what the role of mayor is. And then it makes me think, are you just using mayor of a major city as a stepping stone to what you really want to be doing on a national level? And that shouldn't be. Like, you run for Congress. Like, there's a million things that you can do if national politics are more your lane, right? Raman entered the race late, stunning city political observers after previously backing Bass. We know about that. The Democratic Socialists of America aligned council member was touted by some left-wing supporters as Los Angeles's version of Mom Donnie, and we know that didn't work. And it says, she never managed to build the same kind of citywide movement. That was crystal clear. Raman, and we don't, and like also her pitch, like they're talking about her pitch, how it struggled to break through beyond like, I'm generally progressive. Like, I will say, even though Pratt's campaign was like hate-filled, it was specific. He was angry over the Palisades fire. He was like done with homelessness and drug use in the city and the quality of life. Like his what he was going to work through was actually, in my opinion, a lot more specific than what she was going to work through. And she was making that mistake that Democrats often make. Instead of saying, this is what I'm going to bring, this is why you should vote for me, she was doing a lot of, this is why you shouldn't vote for Spencer Pratt, which to me is just giving more publicity to Spencer Pratt and letting us know that you think he is actually, does stand a chance at being mayor. I think the best approach, if you're running against him, is to not mention him. And if someone brings him up, to really be media trained enough that you go, I don't know what's, I was like, is Spencer Pratt trying to, do this to decrease homelessness? Is Spencer Pratt, and then really list 3 things that you are going to do that are stronger than Spencer Pratt's policies. You just want to get it off the topic of your competitor. You don't want to, you can't take the bait in that way. And I feel like she, because when you start talking about Spencer Pratt too much, it just makes you feel like a constituent instead of a viable candidate yourself. So that's what happened there. It goes on and on, but I thought that was an interesting point, And then furthermore, of course, Spencer Pratt is now saying that it was election fraud, and Donald Trump is calling the California primary rigged, and Time magazine did a whole thing about it. I believe Trump even like walked out of a televised interview after he was like claiming that with no facts that this mayoral election was rigged. I think it was on Meet the Press with Kristen Welker. Yeah, let's see. I'm just trying to not read these whole things. Yeah. Boo, 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 boo. Yeah, he's saying, echoing his false claims about the 2020 presidential election, Trump suggested that the pace of the vote count in, and this is for all the California primaries, in the closely watched gubernatorial and mayoral primaries, and Republicans losing ground as mail-in ballots were tallied, was evidence of fraud. They are dropping fast because it's a rigged election, he said on NBC's Meet the Press, referring to Republican candidates losing ground as mail-in ballots were counted. But even though there's a lot of data that shows that more Democrats vote by mail, and that we knew those Democratic ballots were going to be coming in, and many press outlets were talking about it, and it wasn't a surprise in any way. Unsubstantiated claims about the California elections have spread in recent days among Republicans and right-wing commentators. Tesla CEO and billionaire Elon Musk made similar spurious claims regarding the Los Angeles mayoral race, saying they're not even trying hard to hide the fraud anymore. Republican commentator Meghan McCain wrote, "For whatever it's worth, people in my life who have never even spoken about stolen elections in any capacity are now saying this about California." I mean, again, this is just, and then it talks about the jungle primary system, we all know, but for right now, yes?
I saw a really good tweet that was like, or genuinely was probably a threat, but it said this would be like AOC losing a governor's race in Alabama and saying, wait, that's rigged. Like, it's the most liberal city in America. Of course they didn't vote for Trump's guy.
Right. Well, but the thing is, I think instead of like, I just think they're going about this all wrong, right? Like, so I'm going to actually say that I think Spencer Pratt ran a great campaign. I really do. Again, and when I say great, I mean in that he got people's attention. He got people out who normally don't vote. He got people who are normally not into politics speaking about politics. I don't think his policies are great. I don't think he is great. But a lot of times, unfortunately, as I've talked about before, I think the people who are great at running campaigns are not the same people who would be great at being elected officials. And that's something we need to fix in America, right? But of course, a celebrity, someone who's used to sitting in the public eye, is going to be good on camera, is going to be media trained in a way that Nithya Raman isn't. And so I think instead of saying that it was rigged, he could have really, used this, if he actually cared about making a change, to be like, look at this great job I did. Look how many votes I got in this liberal city. Look how thirsty people are for change. Like, I think it was really positive. And if I were Spencer Pratt, I would be really proud of myself in the campaign I ran. But, obviously he just wants to cause a stink and get free publicity until this dies down. And, he's not really serious about this. Like, we knew he wasn't. But it's unfortunate because I think if we're looking at this from a political perspective, even though Nithya inched through, I think it really speaks highly of Spencer Pratt's campaign and what he got people to feel. Like, obviously his messaging really resonated with people. And again, if I'm Nithya, I'm looking at my campaign, I'm reframing it. If I'm her campaign manager, well, number one, if I was Nithya, I'd fire whoever your campaign manager was, because this was shoddy. Hopefully you can raise some more money and get someone better. And apologies to whoever you are, but this was a fucking mess. All right. And that's our show for today. We got to get everyone, we got to do the Patreon and then get to this Knicks game. But thank you so much for spending time with us. If you want to send me an email, it's withoutacountrypodcast@gmail.com. Obviously, we have GASH on October 25th at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles. Speaking of Los Angeles, and Mike, where can people see you? What do you want to promote?
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the M Harrington, and we have another huge event coming up for the Armored League. Armored 7 is going to be Thursday, July 23rd, back at our home in New York, Melrose Ballroom. Incredible sold out show last week. And we got the big boys fighting. So get tickets at thearmoredleague.com.
Awesome. Make sure you're following me on social media at Philanthropy Gal. Make sure you're following them Harrington. And of course, make sure you're subscribed to the Without a Country YouTube. That is the most important thing to do. And signing off, go Knicks. Knicks in 5. Mike, are you still feeling Knicks in 5? What are your thoughts?
I've been Knicks in 5 all the way.
All the way. I really was Knicks in 4. Like, I wouldn't have said that if I didn't, but I really was Knicks in 4.
I thought we were going to drop game 1, and then it would be a problem from there. But
all right.
I thought it'd be a sweep after the winning game 1. I really do think that the league just was like, hey, we're not letting this thing end in 4 games. So
100%.
That's why we didn't get the Brunson call. A lot of things didn't go our way.
That flagrant was crazy. We're all eyes on Wemby tonight. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for supporting the show. All hail to Christopher Fungi, my capitalist pigs, my cuties. Thanks to Mike. Thanks to Crystal. Happy birthday, Crystal. And me and Alfred are signing off because Alfred needs food, right? Thank you guys for being with me. I appreciate you. Keep critically thinking. Have a good one. Bye.
Running from the man, yeah, the madman's coming, yeah, the man's gunning for me tonight. I spent the last week running from the heat, but the beat's coming alive.